Alright, should be live. How you doing, guys? How's it going? Hope it's going good. I just have this view maximized for right now until Adepticon gets underway. I might get rid of this view if it's impeding the actual view for like the Adepticon stuff. But for right now, Adepticon, the live streams for it anyway are supposed to start at around, if I'm not mistaken, 11 o'clock. So 9 minutes from now. I'm sorry, I meant to start the stream earlier, but I got distracted. I've been trying to put together my Sisters of Battle here, and because I want to paint them soon and get them on the market and selling. So anyway, how's it going, folks? Can't be too loud. Most of my family's asleep right now. And to be fair to me and my family, Adepticon's starting at 11 o'clock at night, like basically tomorrow. So here I am joining in last minute. So, but yeah, I got the page pulled up here for Adepticon. Again, the live stream's supposed to start in 9 minutes. I'm safely assuming it's the actual Warhammer proper channel, unless there's a like Adepticon specific channel that I missed. But for right now, just pull up the Warhammer one. If it doesn't show up on the Warhammer page, then I'll look for Adepticon. I just know it's on Twitch. That's the thing I'm 100% confirmed about. I think this is my first year actually hosting a watch along though, so we'll see how it goes. But until they start up, I'm just going to maximize my painting view here. Well, I guess in this case, assembly view. And yeah, like I said, it's an assembly view because I'm not painting anything right now. I'm just assembling. But, man. Now, I know I rag on GW quite often for their bullshit, so it might come as a surprise I'm actually excited for anything. But I am actually hoping for some good news. Because that's the thing. I'm always hoping for good news. That's like the, I never want there to be bad news. As much as bad news might get good clicks of like videos and news and stuff, I would always rather report something good happening in the hobby space. So with any luck, that's gonna happen here. Hey Matthew, how you doing, man? Has the mini arrived yet? If not, should arrive. I would hope by Friday. Yeah, I hope hope Conrad's on the way, if not already there. Oy oy. So I was in the middle of assembling this sister. I've been cleaning up as I've gone. Ooh. Looks like, hold on. Okay. What if I do this? Hey Daniel Lindsay. Proves you are a fan because you want it to be better. True. Yep, got him today. I love it. Dope as hell. Oh, you got him today. Okay, good news. Good news. I'm glad you're happy with him. Yeah, I hope he serves you well on the battlefield. I'm assuming you're going to be playing 30k with him. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good overall. Yeah, I'm trying to decide how I want to like do this. Let's try it like that and see if it, doesn't impede too much. Oh boy. So, yeah, so it looks like for today, Yeah, today's the Wednesday the 22nd. Yeah, that's it's just they're just doing previews today. Looks like tomorrow they have the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Championship. Hey Ace, how you doing, man? How goes it? It goes pretty good. We got Adepticon about to start, and hopefully it's gonna be good. Hopefully. Always hoping for good news. Always hoping for good news. They've been hinting very strongly at the Lion and stuff with that, so it's pretty much at this point we know the Lion. Either they're pulling the biggest prank ever with like all the previews of like, oh, the Lion's waking up. Either they're just preparing the biggest, you know, to Dark Angels fans, or we're actually about to see the Lion wake up, which is actually a good choice for Primarch to wake up next to Gilliman himself. I do think that he's a good choice. It's been hotly debated since Gilliman woke up who would be the next Loyalist Primarch to come back, and I always thought the Lion was a good choice. So I'm glad that they chose the Lion, at least seemingly. Again, they might be about to pull a, oh, you guys thought it was the Lion, but look at this! Bastards. I wouldn't put it past them at this point. It's GW. Like I don't care if it's not April 1st or not. I'm always prepared for them to just give the middle finger to us. But yeah, with any luck, we're getting good previews today. Let me maximize that. Boom. You prefer Russ to return, but I'll settle for the pretty boy. I mean, to be fair, like I wouldn't necessarily say that the Lion is the pretty boy, right? Like the pretty boy was Sanguinius or Fulgrim, but I guess for the remaining Primarchs, I guess he would be by default the pretty boy. But I don't know. Okay, so they're gonna start in 3 minutes. So I'm just gonna continue on what I was doing for assembling my sisters while I wait. So it looks like I'm taking 14. Thoughts on the upcoming Chaos Dwarves DLC? For Total War, I'm excited. It's very, very expensive, though that's kind of in line at this point for Total War. It's very much in line for Total War DLC, so I'm not going to pretend like that's special, that it's over $20. And it has been a hotly demanded item since Total War Warhammer 1. People have been wanting Chaos Dwarves a lot, and I've always wanted them just because the hype from like the people who actually know Warhammer Fantasy lore in my community, their hype has always bled on me, and they've always talked to me like very excitedly about how cool Chaos Dwarves are, how unique they are, how they're not just a reskin of the Dawi that we already see in Total War Warhammer. And you know, I always figured that they'd have at least some uniqueness to this. I mean, there wouldn't be as much hype around making them a faction if there wasn't some uniqueness to them outside of just being a reskin of the Dawi. But yeah, the DLC itself though is very expensive. I do think it's overpriced. But I usually think that about most of the Total War DLC that come out. I mean, all of them are like the price of a whole indie game in themselves, when all they are is a faction pack. So I would say it's very overpriced. But that's kind of par for the course at this point. And people who have been playing Total War and have been buying all the DLC are not going to stop now just because this one's also pricey. They've all been pricey. So I'll be getting it probably and playing the new Chaos Dwarves when they've dropped. But as of right now, 1 minute short, by the way, guys. 1 minute before Adepticon begins. Just be curious. Yeah, overpriced as heck. Yeah, it's good. Isn't it like 20? It's either 24 or $23, which is again like a third the price of a AAA game, and it's the full price of a good indie game. Like not even like a cheap indie game, a good indie game, or well, presumably for that price range. So it'll be interesting. Oh, let me get my headphones on. That way I actually hear what's going on. this reach over without hooking anything. There we go. Okay, dokie. Hey, D Guardian. Sorry, I didn't welcome you. I would prefer Russ too. It would be more interesting to see how he and Gilliman would interact. They would have a lot of hostility. But I think that would kind of sum up the entirety of that, though. With the Lion, I do want to bring up the art. And listen, I'm a bigger fan of Russ. I like Russ more. But I do think the Lion is a better choice for Primarch to return than the Lion, because I think it's not going to be, because the thing is, if it was Lehman, if Russ came back, it would be very quick how that would go down. He would confront Gilliman, they'd probably get into a fight, there might be hints of a full-blown civil war, somehow it would be stopped by calming Russ down. Of course, that wouldn't be, I wouldn't think that would be accurate, to be honest. But they would calm him down, and they would prevent the Civil War, and then they would continue their fight against Chaos. It'd be pretty straightforward. Russ is not one to beat around the bush. The Lion is. So with introducing the Lion, they can have far more political intrigue and storylines to go with the Lion's return against Gilliman, because he's not going to be as forward as Russ is. Now, if Russ is introduced later with the Lion and Gilliman both being awake and both throwing silent jabs at each other, I think that's going to be... I think that like fits more into an interesting narrative. But again, like I'm not saying like the narrative of Russ coming back and confronting Gilliman about all this bullshit wouldn't be interesting. It would be, but it'd be shorter. And there's a lot less stories you can like make out of that, I think. So, I guess it's down to, would you like one really quick, brief, but really engaging story? Or would you like several, like, more low-key kind of stories where, you know, there's probably a book about the Lion cleaning up his chapter / legion of any and all the Fallen, and also rounding up his remaining loyalists and making sure they're not fucking crazy, which, to be honest, they are. Even the loyalist ones of them are fucking crazy. It's 11:03. Shouldn't they have started? Rocket Stone. Someone says Rocket Stone chat. Hold on. Let me refresh.
You say 1,000?
Yeah, okay,
1,000 Warhammer fans.
1,100.
1,100, and some other people kind of round the edges.
I hate it when that happens. Like Twitch, get your shit together.
And we get to show you guys who are watching along on the stream all that stuff in just a few minutes. I can see there's about 30,000 of you currently tuned in to watch us.
Given the fact that it's like 3 a.m. in some of our core demographic here.
11 p.m. in mine, not even a.m. yet.
So,
almost
do
a.m.
let us know where you're tuning in from, guys. It's about, I think, 3 or 4 in the morning over in the UK. It's still pretty late over here in the US as well.
It's pretty late in the US. We're here at Central Time. It's already past 10. Eddie here was probably still getting over the jet lag. You were in the UK just yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we had an interesting flight over. It was not without incident, but it's all good. We're here now.
You visited many cities on your way to Chicago.
Well, I can already see in the chat we've got loads of people. It's going flying by so fast. We've got the UK. There's some people, loads of the US, Denmark, Europe, China, all sorts of places. So the Shire I see in there as well. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We've got a really, really cool show. We've got loads of really fun stuff. I'm excited to share it. If you guys have got any theories or any things you're particularly looking forward to seeing, let us know in the chat. Some of them might come true.
Indeed, and see what you can get out of us in the chat, because there's all sorts of things we can talk about over the next bit here.
Yeah, we might be able to answer some questions. The chat is going so fast at the moment.
It's just wild guesses.
I might not be able to see your question, but we'll do our best if any kind of...
I know there has been some leaks about like a more anthropomorphic bipedal Tyranid unit as well. People have been calling it the Tyranid Marine.
Obviously a huge part of the event scene.
An
It'll be interesting to see what that is.
For Warhammer, you are Mr. Events for Warhammer.
I am.
Tell us what Adepticon means to you.
Well, so all of us who come to Adepticon, and I've been here many times, I came here many times before I joined Games Workshop, and it really inspired me into the sort of event side of the hobby. It inspired me to run events of my own. It inspired me in how I've approached Warhammer when it comes to engaging with the community in person. And events like this are really a representation of the community itself, and the community is really Warhammer. Without the community, Warhammer is nothing, and without Warhammer, we wouldn't be lucky enough to have this community, and it's really writ large here at an event like Adepticon. If you've never had a chance to go, I recommend it. It doesn't matter where you are. There are people who come from all over the world to attend, and it's sort of the godfather.
Now, I don't know much about these guys as individuals, but I do kind of want to call this out a little bit, because I don't want to call this out as someone who's like trying to shit on these guys as individuals, but I am going to call this out as a fan of 40K and of GW products. And I'm kind of addressing this to GW, okay? You don't fucking care about the community. Kiss my ass. You guys have done so many anti-community things over the last 3 to 4, no, fucking ever, but like specifically the last 5 years. You guys have almost waged a war against your own community. The crackdown on 3D printed and third-party kit bashes, the pissing on fan animations and fan-made projects, updating your IP policy to basically make it so anybody who isn't directly a slave to your NDA and shit. Like, just bullshit on that community front. I'm sorry. Now again, I don't know these guys, those hosts as individuals. I'm not saying that to them, it's to GW.
Archifane is now at large, and Angron is on a rampage, and there's perhaps one character in the entire galaxy who could stand against Angron. That's the Lion.
Lionel Johnson is the Primarch of the Dark Angels, formerly the Dark Angels Legion, and now he is the returned Primarch of the Dark Angels chapter. Returning Primarchs are a big deal.
Let's see if they handle this correctly, guys. Taking bets. One in the chat if you guys think they're going to actually handle his return correctly. And 2 in the chat if you think that they're going to just kind of throw him in there. And try and make it a big deal, but they're really going to not, like, fully deliver. I do like his model, by the way. I do want to say that. The model is nice.
And this is where he makes his stand. As a light in the dark. As a knight standing alone.
He grew up as a feral youth on a forested world full of monsters,
Caliban,
taken in by knights after he'd spent years hunting down creatures of chaos. And that's pretty much what he's gone back to doing. He's found half of the galaxy completely subsumed by darkness, warp storms, chaotic beasts, so he's just set back to work. He is going to reunite, you'd imagine, with the Dark Angels chapter, and woe betide anybody who finds themselves on the other side of the battlefield from them.
Interesting what they've done with this. Like, they've aged him up. Sure. Which is interesting, because correct me if I'm wrong, but Gilliman didn't really look like he aged that much when he woke up. Meanwhile, the Lion looks like he has aged quite a bit. To be fair, the circumstances of why they left were very different anyway, so... Alright, so it wasn't a gotcha. They are bringing the Lion back, and I like that model. I'll give them credit. Their sculpts still look good.
New Primarch has returned to Warhammer 40,000.
Well, those kind of sculpts do.
Some of you predicted it. Some of you saw it coming. Some of you. Just a few, you know.
We all saw it coming. Earlier today, they released a video of a lion with a fucking alarm bell thing.
He is. He hasn't been sitting comfortably in stasis for 10,000 years.
Yeah, it's probably on like a stone slab as well. So
it doesn't sound very comfortable, actually. I don't want to talk about that.
Lion became his adopted dad.
Fair enough. Well, so let's have
also
a look at
Florian.
So we've got some shots of it. Absolutely phenomenal miniature. Early contender, I think, for miniature of the year. One of the most anticipated Warhammer models I think we've ever had the pleasure to reveal.
I mean, it looks good, but miniature of the year?
Every inch of this model is just dripping with detail and iconography. And
I don't know if I agree with that. Like, the Angron mini is already better.
Aesthetic of the Dark Angels.
It's
well, actually,
for me to
the Angron released technically in the late 2022, didn't he?
It's stunning.
So I guess he might not be in the running, to be fair.
Because it was so much better than what I was imagining. And I gotta tell you, it was one of the better kept.
He does look like Luther a bit.
I could not see it myself.
That is, he looks very much how I'd picture Luther.
So it's been amazing to see the community get excited and make all the wild calls and whatnot. And of course, there was a.
There's a very nice model though, Grumble
today.
I'll give him credit where it's due. The model looks nice. The paint job looks nice.
On this miniature, so we'll go through some of the highlights. So he's got a sword. He's got a brand new sword. So
he does seem to have one.
This is not the Lion Sword. The Lion Sword is still with Cypher around the galaxy somewhere. At some point, maybe they'll meet again, but it's not this day. But he has another blade, which is more than capable of cleaving monsters in half with. He's accompanied by 2 Watchers in the Dark. These are the kind of shadowy forms that follow key Dark Angels characters around, and there is no more significant character than the Lion himself, and they kind of whisper to him in the darkness and kind of give him hints about where he might best put his service to the Emperor and defeat the forces of chaos.
Well, he's also got a shield there, Eddie, it looks like.
He does. He is carrying the Emperor's shield. So that is the glorious golden Oromite shield carried by the Emperor and now carried by his son in much the same way that Gulliman wields the Emperor's sword. The Emperor...
I don't know how I feel about
or
that.
maybe inherited the shield of the Emperor. So when he's fighting against the horrors of the galaxy, he can use the Emperor's shield to deflect the deadly blows that might even lay someone like him low.
Well...
Other details on him there.
Loyalist-wise, other than the Lion, who would wield the Emperor's shield?
More ornate, elaborate versions of Space Marine power armor. So
if I think about it,
he's definitely still
probably nitpicky on my front. I don't know how I feel. Again, I don't know how I feel about that.
All the iconography of the Dark Angels and
I'd have to think about that.
Kind of incorporated into his armor.
I actually think it's fascinating with the paint job as well that he's clearly got that green element of the Dark Angels, but there's sort of that original sort of darker hue to the main armor plates as well going on in the way that it's been put together.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly interpret that armor as being black armor with a slightly green tinge to it. That's pretty cool. Obviously, the green of the Dark Angels comes from the Forests of Caliban. That's where that green color scheme comes from. And the black was kind of their original First Legion color. So the green of the Dark Angels Legion was incorporated when the Lion joined, basically. So it's a touch that he's kind of got some of that hue into the paint scheme. I think we've got another shot of some more close-ups. So this might be my favorite thing actually about this. It's not my favorite thing about the kit, but there's so much cool stuff. But one of the cool things about it is that
helmet looks nice. Very much like that helmet.
So you can sort of choose.
And good choice with the cloak. I like the variations on that.
On the battlefield. So
it's cool you get 4.
Your unhelmeted head, so he's kind of there as the general of the forces, bellowing commands to his legion, his chapter. You can
out of these, I would definitely put.
To have a much more mysterious.
I'd put this one in the top.
Sort of vibe.
Like the ultimate appearance.
Or you can go
I would customize them like that one.
And have the
but second to it would be this one.
Synonymous with the
I would put that one in third. The cloak without the helmet, and it looks cool, but it kind of looks like just an old Robin Hood, so I'd put that at 4th. If I had to rate them in order of like which customization variants I think goes best.
Is a complicated character, right? So he's
third goes hard as fuck.
Interesting relationship with the Imperium.
But I like that full armored out in the open look. So that's my favorite.
His commanders under him. So he is this kind of multifaceted, interesting personality, and you can kind of choose which of those you like and which ones you associate with, and make the model.
Dorn, maybe. I mean, that's who I was thinking would be a better person to wield the Emperor's shield. I mean, come on, he's the Praetorian of Terra.
Yes, so
literally, his title is about protecting the Imperium, and his iconography is all about defense.
The book is called.
Give him the shield, but
the Lion. And it will chronicle the finale of the story of the Arks of Omen.
Dorn dead.
A huge showdown, effectively, between the forces of Chaos and the forces of the Imperium. On the Imperial side,
only one source says that.
Alongside some of the Dark Angels chapter and some of their successors, and you'll have Dante, and you'll have some Blood Angels. So some of the angels, basically, the Angels of Darkness, will stand against the forces of Chaos.
There is one thing I don't like about this mini. It's that skeleton on the base there.
So it's going to be a huge showdown, effectively.
Not a fan.
So on the screen right now, you can see
the paint job is definitely like carrying it, but it looks, I don't know, it looks kind of like a Halloween decoration.
Quite a lot bigger.
Right there in the hands and the chest. I don't know, the mold didn't come out amazing on that one.
He's the same scale. So he is a Primarch, they are brothers.
Obviously, it's not the central piece, it's a decoration, but still.
They're brothers, so they are pretty much the same size. They're the standard Primarch.
Everyday run-of-the-mill Primarch
Absolutely.
that you see around the corner.
Well, he's original and best, some would say, for the Lion.
Indeed, it's true. His rock looks a little less tactical.
If anyone is going to stand on a rock, it's going to be the Lion.
It does seem like what he does as a standard.
It's kind of his jam, right?
Eddie, never without a good pun when it's needed.
So this is the artwork that comes on the cover of Arks of Omen Book 5.
If anyone's going to stand on a rock, it's the Lion.
On the Lion there, you can see that he has age basically. So as far as
I get what they're referencing, but still, really.
Gulliman has been in stasis for most of the last 10,000 years, so when he comes out,
I will
fresh
teach
faced,
them to fear the
bright-eyed,
darkness
bushy-tailed,
in which they dwell,
maybe only a few
and to
centuries
dread
old.
the
Lion
shadows
has
they believe
literally
their
been alive
allies.
for all
For there is no
10,000
greater
years, so that's
terror
one
hunting
Primarch
the
looks like.
Stygian
Just a very
void
long nap.
than the
It's a
Lion
really,
of
really
Caliban.
long catnap, indeed.
Well, he does have that effect in the miniature.
Don't
as well.
invite the
It's
furry
visual.
comparisons,
He
guys.
looks older. The
Catnap,
reality
really.
is, for those that didn't pick it up earlier, he is indeed
Yeah,
quite a bit
he's,
older.
He's pretty old. Yeah, he's pretty old. But he does have that kind of like ancient, venerable veteran knight errant sort of thing. So you can imagine that kind of character. And this is what happens in the Arks of Omen, basically, is that he is wandering through the Imperium Nihilis, taking on monster hunting.
Everybody's read
picking up where he left off when he was a knight of Caliban.
His primary calling.
Yeah, wandering out into the dark forests to take down the monsters that haunt the darkness.
And we saw that in his quote, his focus being on teaching them to fear the darkness in which they dwell.
Yeah. Here he is alongside a Dark Angel's army, and you can kind of see how he scales versus some of the other units. So, you know, he's looks pretty cool next to Redemptor Dreadnoughts and Intercessor units and tanks. And his iconography.
He kind of looks like, especially with this angle, he kind of looks like Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, doesn't he?
I'd be lying if I said
From like that angle?
see the Warhammer community post with all the different various guest authors painting.
With this particular
I think
angle.
It's going to be a painter's treat. It's going to be a very, very cool model to paint up. There are some shots from Arks of Omen Book 5. So you can see here the Dark Angels and the Blood Angels fighting against the forces of first of Chaos, but Demons of Nurgle in this instance. One of the things that there's some really, really cool stories in the last episode of the Arks of Omen, so I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, he does look like Tywin Lannister, right? Yeah.
Huge twists.
I'm not crazy.
Turns,
well, I am crazy, but I haven't gone that crazy.
Warhammer 40,000 for a long time. There's some really nice payoffs to some
Hey, Mr.
very
Bones.
long-running arcs.
It is all I can do not to try and prod you to tell them more about it, because Eddie's given me a bit of a rundown, and it's been hard for me to not just want to kibitz about it with every single Warhammer fan that I can come across right now.
It's very, very cool. So if you like the lore and the narrative of Warhammer 40,000, if you've been following it for a long time, if you're a fan of the First Legion, which I am, I've got a Fallen Angels collection myself.
I will admit, I'm not a huge fan of the
but he is the best Primarch.
of the Dark Angels. I don't hate him.
We have more to
Make
talk
that clear.
about.
I don't hate him.
We do, we've got more.
This is the line preview. We just talked
I'm not
about
a
the
fan.
Lion for the next hour, I think.
The
right?
last thing, though, to say about this is
I
that
suppose.
in the Arks of Omen Book 5, the Lion will fight Angron. So we have a situation, 2 brand new miniatures, 2 new Primarchs, both returned to the 41st millennium. They will have a showdown in Book 5 of the Arks of Omen.
I'm ordering this poster.
Yeah.
Or behind me.
If you
Did you miss the lion? Yeah, they made the
if you are a
reveal.
Lion fan
It wasn't
or
that
a
big of a
Angron
reveal,
fan,
to be
please
honest.
Let us know in the chat who you were rooting for.
It was very quick to be.
Yeah, can we do a poll there in the chat?
I mean, maybe.
We might be able to do
We'll
a
have
poll.
go.
Who should win or who will win?
Who will win?
Angron.
It has already been written.
Artwork looks
so we
good.
get to
Yeah,
change
and
it.
the artwork always looks good.
Yeah, you
The
can guess what
sculpt
you
looks
want.
good on the
Right,
lion.
that's not it.
I like the different customizations you can do for him. He looks. It's a good
I
model.
think we told everyone here it was the biggest.
I cannot wait to buy the STL
In terms of the amount of stuff.
rescan of it.
It would be an injustice if we didn't serve the same treatment.
So we are leaving for
I
the
mean,
first millennium for a
hopefully.
little bit, and we are going
We always hope they do it right.
The mortal. Oh, it's heresy first. So we are going to jump to the Horus heresy. Yeah, let's roll video.
Let's see what we've got.
Alright. Well, now. Heresy time. Come on, baby.
I'm Andy Hall. I work on the Horus Heresy team in the Warhammer studio. The setting for the Siege
Chthoniya,
of Chthoniya book is the planet of Chthoniya itself, which is the homeworld of the Sons of Horus. It's actually the homeworld of War Master Horus.
Yeah.
As the War Master,
Although he wasn't there
fleets were
very
marching on
long.
Terror,
He was there long enough to integrate into the culture
and
and,
the true sons of Chthoniya.
you know, kind
decide
of-
to peel away from the fleet and retake Chthoniya in the interests of the honour of their culture.
They have not announced 10th yet. It literally started
So
with them
book
talking
opens
about
up
the
with a
lion.
really
That was the
big
very first thing they
extensive
did.
narrative
Now they're talking
of
about
the
30k.
actual Chthoniya campaign itself. Then we go into a section that sums up what all of the big factions within the Horus Heresy are doing at this point in the war. We also have some new core scenarios for the game. So if you wish to play through the events described in the narrative, You've got some special scenarios that are themed around the Siege of Cathonia. We gave people a basic way of doing Zone Mortalis games in White Dwarf when the new edition came out, and this takes that and expands it into a full system. So full Zone Mortalis scenarios and system in this book. It's also got a really interesting section on Space Marine inductii. We've got a new type of consul, which is called a Decorian. We have the Infernus Abomination. And then the last thing in the book, there's a number of special characters and special models that you can take. There's the two main leaders, the two main special characters, Garrus, Evander for the Imperial Fists, and Varanash Haddon for the Sons of Horus. We've got models coming out for those, rules for them in here. This is the first of the campaigns of the Age of Darkness series, and we intend to keep going with these. One really important thing to say about this book is it's designed to appeal to all Horus Heresy players. It's also telling a really important part of the overall story, and it's also giving people rules and scenarios and all the rest of it that will appeal to everybody.
So that is a brand new narrative.
I'm excited for what they'll. I'm excited for what they'll do in the expansion book, but I'll actually have to read it to
with the first edition of the
see
Horus
much
Heresy
about it.
were the black books.
I don't know if Cathonia would be my first choice for like a campaign
They had
pack.
loads of really rich
I can think of
lore
like
and background
other
and maps,
campaigns
all sorts of
they
really
could
cool
handle
stuff.
first.
And it's been a year since we've had.
I suppose Cathonia would be one of the bigger ones, given Horus's connection to it.
Books coming back for the Horus Heresy, and
yeah, so this book is the first of that ilk, and it's absolutely jam-packed with stuff. We heard from Andy Hoare there a few of the details about what's going to be in it. So there will be brand new miniatures, obviously accompanying the new campaign book. But maybe more excitingly, actually, is this brings new ways to play. So there is a full Zone Mortalis set of rules. Okay. That's a hugely popular way to play Horus Heresy.
Yep.
Obviously, loads of the best bits of the lore of the Horus Heresy of like boarding the Vengeful Spirit or various different flagships and Gloriana ships and the battles that happen on board them. This has got new ways to play on the tabletop, on Horus's homeworld, on Cathonia itself, and the characters that kind of lead those battles will be getting new miniatures, alongside lots of other new miniatures that these new campaign books herald. So it's a really exciting time for the Horus Heresy. It's like the next step. We've had the edition, we've had the kind of base level, and now this is diving into the detail.
It's pretty exciting to hear Andy talk about it as well. Even when he's not on a recording, there's a certain driving passion that exists there for Warhammer and for the brand and for the game that it is sort of hard to rival, and it's magical to see amongst the folks who are actually designing and building the product. And also to hear him talk about it as in his own words, inside of our regular meetings, a historical war game in a sense. And that we view the heresy itself as a historical moment in the history of Warhammer.
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting thing about the Horus Heresy, which is that when people get really into it, they want like authenticity, right? So like people tend to go, I want this bit of the lore. I read this story, it was really cool. I want the faction.
Well, to be fair, the reason there's such a zealotry around the Horus Heresy series and how it will be portrayed in game as well as anywhere else is it's the most lore documented event in all of 40k lore. It like the Horus Heresy series, and if we add the Siege of Terra series next to it, has well over 60 books dedicated to it. 60 books. Nothing else in 40k has more lore around it than 65 books. Yeah, 65. It's on its way to 70. Like nothing else in 40k is more documented and more outlined than the Horus Heresy. So the zealotry around this specific stuff is going to be far worse than every other angle you can possibly approach in 40k lore. This is the most rigidly expected and followed stuff for the hobby. Yeah, it's also the most galaxy-defining event besides the War in Heaven. Correct. So, yeah, there's many people who don't even have any interest in 40k stuff at all. They only care about 30k. I'm becoming one of them more and more every day, but that's not because 30k is necessarily better than 40k has always been. It's just becoming better because 40k has been not engaging me as much. We'll see if the Lion storyline that they have coming up will change that, but the Heresy is fucking big.
Mortal realms, where something ancient and prehistoric is.
It's a good cut to jump from the immortal legions of the Space Marines, many of whom die constantly in Horus Heresy, into the mortal realms. It's interesting.
Flawless segue.
Age of Sigmar stuff. Lancers. I have a STL, basically of these very same units, so not those ones. The Croxigar, I don't have that, but of those other units, the T-Rex unit included, I have that. Those are nice. The Seraphon are here to save the mortal realms. It's the lizards.
So that is the rest of the Seraphon forces. We've always seen some new models on their way at some previous previews, but this is the rest of the range, and effectively the Seraphon have now been fleshed out to be one of the best-looking armies in Age of Sigmar.
They do look pretty
good. I want
good.
to name all of them some form of Saurus. I want to talk about how much a bunch of clever girls these particular models are. I am excited about this. As someone who's relatively new to Age of Sigmar,
Jurassic
this is the army that got me into it.
Yeah.
To begin with, and I
Sorry,
am
I hate,
overly
like-
excited about what these miniatures mean for my.
I hate it when I feel like I'm being talked to like a
Forgetting that
5-year-old.
part, I'm just excited to collect them personally.
Well, so Lizardmen was my first army when I started playing Warhammer.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I've got a definite soft spot for
Kindred
these guys.
spirits there.
Absolutely. So these are incredible models. So this is the Agrodon Lancer unit you can see on screen at the moment. This effectively replaces the Cold One Riders that we currently have in the Lizardmen range. They are significantly bigger than the current heavy cavalry of the Seraphon. This is a very, very hard-hitting unit.
Hey, Kaiju.
They are elite Saurus riding on the back of fairly large, angry reptilian cavalry. They are a grinding force in close combat.
Are they reptilian or are they more like avian?
I
cavalry?
mean, so that they are effectively the dreams of frogs from another dimension. So I think the evolutionary tree probably doesn't really apply.
Really good point. Dinosaur monster heroes from space.
Absolutely, but the models are incredible. I think if you are a painter, the Seraphon have leaped up the list of armies that would be a treat, because not only do you get to play with incredible color schemes for them, but the new miniatures are so detailed and so wonderful. This is an alternate color scheme for the Agrodon Lancer.
That's amazing.
There's some really, really nice new color schemes actually in the Seraphon battle tome that's on its way. One of the things that the studio have basically done is gone, you can paint them in much more varied colors. We've shown that in much more varied ways than maybe the last few battle tomes have. One of the things that's happening in the mortal realms effectively is that the Seraphon are kind of becoming one with the realm they're in. So if they're in the realm of fire, they get that kind of brimstone scales or something. If they're in the realm of life, they're like flushed with life energy, and you can kind of extrapolate that into the various different realms. So if you want to kind of make your Seraphon your own and place them somewhere in the mortal realms and really ground them, you can. Or you can kind of lean into their classic aesthetic. And what you see here actually is a throwback with that color scheme to a very old concept of blessed by the old ones. So some Seraphon, some Lizardmen would be spawned albino, and when that was true, they would be seen as
albino?
One of the old ones had intervened and gone, this person is marked for greatness. So they would be marked out as champion, given the best weapons.
I think it's a prompter. If it was from cards, we would actually see like their eyes.
Scar Veteran on Agrodon. This is a separate kit.
Well, to be fair with the prompt. Unit. Well, the thing is, their eyes keep looking at the same exact spot, so I think it's a prompter. I don't think someone's actually holding up cue cards.
It's a big old monster.
Massive space dinosaur, and I love your point there about the diversity of the Seraphon, that they, depending upon the realm that they're in, there's all that duality of the starfaring, the star lizardmen, as it were, as well as the ones that are actually more in tune with and more
it's definitely a prompter,
sort of corporeal within the realms that they've chosen. It's a fascinating duality that the faction provides you to sort of play it in a wide variety of different ways, both thematically and in gameplay terms.
And that's still true in the new battle tome and the new lore. And one of the reasons that we're seeing lots of new troop units, lots of new monsters especially added to the army, is that the age of the beast, the coming of Kragnos, has effectively shaken the foundations of the Seraphon, and the new kind of wave of bestial energy has woken up all these kind of ancient eggs that were in different pockets of the ziggurats.
Sleepy dinos.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, I didn't know we had all these eggs. They've woken up. On screen at the moment, there's a couple of units of Kroxigor. There is one new Kroxigor kit coming, and it makes 2 different units. You can make your standard Kroxigor, which are still hulking, enormous reptilian killers, but you can make this brand new unit.
Check heresy, welcome to the stream. This is a model that needed an update. Haven't seen the original, to be fair, so I can't comment on that. But I do think these models look nice.
Peace might help the skinks kind of construct pyramids or fashion things or move heavy loads around. These guys want none of that. They are just angry, massive crocodiles that just want to rip into enemy units.
Angry, massive, heroic saviors of the mortal realms.
Sure.
Crocodiles.
I mean, they're sort of heroic, so they're about as chaotic and destructive as you can be while still being on Team Order, I think.
Absolutely. Still good guys.
And here's a shot of the whole Seraphon range, kind of as it all comes together, and you get a sense now of all those new units that we've seen, and how they kind of come together to make just an incredible looking faction. So everything about the Seraphon army, every new kit, I think is a winner. Just such a lovely looking army.
I cannot wait to collect them myself, Ed.
There is, of course, a battle tome on the way. We can now show you the cover, featuring, as it does, an Agrodon Lancer champion. Brand new battle tome obviously brings with it all the new rules you'll need to play with the Seraphon. Some of the existing kits still stick around, so things like the Stegodons, the Carnosaur, most of the big monsters that are relatively recent kits that are still really nice stick around. But all of those new things we've seen are added to it as well. So it's a pretty big army now in terms of the number of war scrolls you get to choose from.
Yeah, it really feels like it's fit properly into the Age of Sigmar universe, heavily revitalized, and again, a bunch of clever girls there in those units.
It wasn't funny the first
place
time,
you will be
dude.
able to get hold of the new Seraphon and the new battle tome is an army box, which is on its way fairly soon. And inside this box, you will get these units. So the battle tome, 2 units of Raptidons, the Slanmade Priest,
really
and
like.
Saurus.
I don't know. I'm assuming these are an older model, or if they are new, they haven't highlighted them.
So
I like that
Seraphon
model
fan,
right there.
there is a really, really
nice.
good few months ahead of you. Pretty cool.
It's exciting. I think we have a bunch of other things to cover for Age of Sigmar.
We were about halfway through Age of Sigmar.
Only halfway.
So there's loads of cool stuff for Age of Sigmar.
Well, you talked about the fact that we have the Seraphon coming soon. What else do we have before we get to the Seraphon?
Let's have a look at the video and see what
Let's
Halloween theme, yeah. A mason of beer. An outcast of night. Let's see our Bone Reapers and the Soul Blight. Like Bonjo's are done. I can't blame you.
So I really gotta say, before we even talk about those, the marketing studio, the Warhammer studios that put together the vibe and the theme of these videos never gets enough credit. It's pretty amazing. I'm always entertained by it. But tell us about these models.
Yeah, so we've got 2 new heroes coming for Grand Alliance Death, and 2 new battle tomes accompanying them. So we have the Soulblight Gravelords and a new vampire, a named vampire hero, and the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and a new generic.
I don't want to put anybody down, but the thing he just complimented with like the way they like cinematically revealed the models. It was okay. Like they were clearly referencing like classical like horror films with that like film grain and that you know that effect. But it's really basic editing, like a slight shutter, adding over a filter. You know, even the music felt kind of stock. Like I feel like a film student from a not even a college, like a high school program could have done that. Like I said, I'm not trying to put anybody down here, but it felt weird for him to take a moment to compliment it. It's not like they showed us Sturdies 2 just now, right? Like I would pull things aside and be like, let's fucking compliment this for a second. It was really basic little editing effects. It was kind of cheesy, to be honest. Yeah, like they feel like they got to put emphasis on so many of these weird things. I get that they have a job here and they're supposed to be hyping everything up and supposed to be making a big deal about stuff. But it feels like they're just trying to hype up everything, including things they don't have to right now.
So this is
Workshop.
Volga, and she is a outcast of her house. She is a wandering lone monster hunter, woodswoman. She wanders out into the wild places of the mortal realms. She finds monsters, she chops their heads off, and she drinks their blood. So the other vampires
millennials and zoomers,
sort of
and I say that as millennials myself.
Her, but she's
thing is, I'm not sure if I'm a millennial or a zoomer. If I'm a zoomer, I'm an older zoomer. I'm 23. I was born in '99, so I'm not sure where millennial ends and zoomer begins.
Monsters to help her kind of even the odds in close combat. But what's quite fun about her, I guess, is that you've got this kind of crux of lots of different, almost kind of fairy tale elements pulled together into a character. But it's a vampire, right? So it's a very dark Warhammery take on a very kind of classic European fairy tale sort of vibe.
It's the vampire's lead of Into the Woods. It makes sense. It's an interesting and fascinating thematic element. And it seems like both of these characters are helping drive.
I mean, the face on that model, wasn't super impressive. That sculpt was...
but both of them give you
like, GW's always suffered with face sculpts, but I'm sorry, that face sculpt looked like it was from '99.
Again, actually got one of the last battle tomes of the last edition, which meant that they
turning 23 30 minutes. Oh, well, happy birthday.
With the latest edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, this battle tome brings the bang up to date.
It's awesome.
It also incorporates other units we've seen added in since the.
I think resumers. Yeah, I'm pretty sure resumers.
Things like the.
I think Millennial ends in like 95, 94,
so
maybe.
It actually has quite a lot more to it.
If that.
Even the current
and like Zoomer starts with the turn of the century.
Black Gravelords came out relatively recently. They were a huge hit. One of the most popular armies now in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and this book brings them bang up to date.
Which I find funny because as like I'm a substitute teacher, some of the students have called me a boomer. So
I feel like no one would have predicted that this was going to be an Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I mean, they've been spoiled, and here's something.
Let off with a line, and now it's all about.
Not old face or shit. Look at Yard from 2022. Sorry, 2002.
I don't remember.
I didn't say they all were shit, but GW has always struggled with face
Here
molds.
we are, trudging through the mud
Like,
to bring
pretty much always.
Sigmar's light.
Some of them have been okay,
to the realms.
but quite a few look rough. Those look okay. I know this is really offhanded, but am I the only one who hates the logo for Age of Sigmar?
So, Cities of Sigmar, that is the new infantry that is on its way for the Free Peoples, basically.
Like, I don't like how it's
mortal
designed.
foes.
It feels
so, just to set your expectations a little bit,
to me.
we are
It feels
still
off.
a good few months away from the release of
Does it
this
bother
army
you?
in full, but we wanted to kind of
Could just
keep
be
you
me.
updated as to where the project was getting to. We've kind of been following the Cities of Sigmar project as it
something
develops,
about it feels like
and now we've got
really
the first kind of painted miniatures to show you.
constrained.
This is
If that makes sense.
warriors from the mortal infantry units of
It's
Sigmar.
it's like not
They
even a
are
nitpick. It's
effectively-
beyond a
you
nitpick,
imagine
but I'm
that,
just
these people have
voicing
to
my
face
thoughts.
flying sharks and huge uruks and vampires and monsters and pretty much.
So they're the human
Yeah,
equivalent of
that could be why.
Yeah, well, not really. If you're looking for the absolute underdog of the mortal realms, this is this unit. They are given a rusty shield, not matching
Yeah,
weaponry.
the actual models they're showing
just
right now,
about
though.
fits, and
They
then kind
look
of booted out en
cool.
masse into the realms on great big crusades.
Well, they look-
Given a pat on the back. And
Are
then
these
got
a revamp of an existing model, or are these new?
They are the plucky underdogs of the mortal
Full
realms.
disclosure, when it comes to Age of Sigmar, I know
Interesting models that are
both in the
basically
tabletop
opposite
and in
ends
the
of
lore,
spectrum.
I'm very weak on it.
Often wild and crazy and monstrous elements and aesthetic that you see a
Well,
lot of
even
in
on
Sigmar.
the good
New?
guy side,
Okay,
right?
those are
Even
brand
the
new
Forces of
models.
Order,
Oh,
Stormcast
they
are
look
very
pretty
much
good.
in the point of view characters almost that we've kind of followed. And what this army basically does is it gives you the base level. It gives you like, what do the humans look like? What are they up to in the Mortal Realms? We'll have lots more stuff for the Cities of Sigmar over the coming weeks and months as we kind of approach the release. This is a piece of artwork from the upcoming Battle Tome, and what this does, which is quite cool, it gives you a sense of some of the sub-factions that are covered within the new Battle Tome.
The different sigils of the various cities.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the centre there, you've got Sigmar sigil, the 12-pointed star, but round the edge, you've got some symbols of cities that might be familiar if you're up to date on your current Age of Sigmar lore, and there's some ones that are brand new. So give you a bit of a sense of the different corners of the Mortal Realms that the Battle Tome and the armies will
And
cover.
you said Sigmar, the cities of Sigmar are still a little ways off. What can it look like between now and then?
So in terms of the roadmap for Warhammer Age of Sigmar,
To the
we
border
have,
way, get the W out of space.
Blades-Born
Yeah, I think that would look
and
better.
Slaanesh are available to pre-order just now. So
Yeah,
they are
maybe
days
that's
away from being
yeah. Like I
in
said, it
hand.
just feels
Very
constrained.
soon
Like
after,
that's
we get 2 Death Battle Tomes.
why it
So
feels
the
off to
Ossiarch
me.
Reapers and the Soul Black Gravelords
It's
are
a,
hot
like
on
I said, it's a
their heels.
nitpick
And
beyond
then we have Mystery
nitpick,
Book
but
1 in summer. We're not going to tell you what that is just yet, but it's going to be very cool and exciting. So we'll tune in for future previews to find out what that is. We also have Seraphon alongside their army
armor's,
box.
you know? Yeah, I like the
they'll
armor.
land in
It
summer, as
nailed
will
the
latest
medieval
General's
chic.
Handbook. And then in autumn, we have Mystery Book 2, which I'm not going to tell you about today, but just very tantalizing, very
Just the
mysterious.
worst, Eddie.
And I am the worst.
Teasing us constantly.
True, it's all true. And then Cities of Sigmar will be with us before the end of the year. So we'll keep you up to date. We'll give you lots more information about the Cities of Sigmar. But whether it's Seraphon, Cities of Sigmar, or any of those other battle tomes that are on the way, it is a pretty exciting few months, actually. For
I
Age
mean,
of
you've
Sigmar.
only told us up to autumn. Who knows what the winter
Who
will
knows?
bring?
Who knows what the winter could bring?
Well, what do we have? So we've covered a lot of Sigmar.
Done some
We took a
Sigmar.
detour from the 41st Millennium. I feel like we should go back there for
We
at
can
least
go
a
that
little
for a
bit.
little bit. Yeah,
yes,
see what-
please
What
go
else do
back
we
there.
have here?
Alright, what else are we getting for 40k? Come on.
Then, we've got to get out of here. The Hulk's going to blow! Not until we find our Iron King.
Alright, Leagues of Votan.
Quick, search through the stasis chambers. Beastmen! Get to the escape pods. The ancestors are watching.
StarCraft 3. This kill team? Yep, kill team. So wait, they just added Beastmen to kill team.
I am a huge fan of Kill Team, and these are 2 amazing kill teams. And we're nearing the end of the story of
Yeah.
Gallo Dark.
Yeah, so this is Gallo Fall, which gives you a hint about what might be occurring in the narrative. This is the last installment in the current season of Kill Team, which is the Into the Dark season where we're inside spaceships.
Before I say
And the
anything
reason
that
this
might
is the
buy
end
my
of the
ass,
season of this is that
I don't
the
play Kill
Gallo
Team, I
Dark,
play, like,
the space
40K
Hulk we've been
traditional.
fighting over for the past year is crashing. It is
Were
crashing
Beastmen
into
already
a
there
planet,
in Kill Team?
And this
Or-
last
It's an appropriate Warhammer 40,000 sort
absolutely,
of an outcome.
all the best bits of it blow up. That's kind of how it works. Welcome to Warhammer.
It was a problem
and
haircut, yeah.
this space Hulk
That-
is
that
crashing
weird
into a planet, and this last
min hair
installment
whoop.
is basically the last 5 minutes of a really cool action film where your kill teams have to get to the escape pods and get
And then you're
out of
suffering.
dodge before the spaceship crashes into a planet and is obliterated.
I gotta tell you, the Votan team has all the hallmarks of a great action film in terms of how they're equipped as well. My favorite being probably the minigun, the
There's a
high
minigun,
las
yeah,
rotary
yeah.
cannon, to be precise. What about yours? What's your favorite?
So my favourite thing in the Leagues of Votan half is that there's one of the characters who's basically come with knuckle dusters to a space fight. So they know they're going to board a spaceship. They don't know what horrors could await them. They have
I like
access
this
to
shot.
full
This is a
range
very good
of
shot.
the Leagues of Votan equipment.
And
you
the
know,
models look
railguns,
nice.
rifles, all sorts of cool stuff. And this guy has decided he's going to go with the knuckle dusters.
I mean, they're like laser space.
are like
I do gotta
laser
say this, I
fucking
give Tau a lot of
even
shit.
so-
I mean, when in doubt, punch it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do gotta say, I give Tau a lot of shit for looking like they don't fit in 40k, and I've been very
Current plastic
hesitant to go full out on it against the Leagues of Votan, but to be perfectly honest, I gotta give the same criticism. Leagues of Votan do not look like they belong at 40k to me.
set effectively allows you
Yeah, models look cool. Here's the thing, when I say they don't belong in 40k, there's not me saying they look ugly or bad. These are good-looking models. Like, the designs are great. I don't think they look like 40k. Not just these ones, but any of the Leagues of Votann models. Like, they all look out of place for me. Like, they're way too smooth, way too polished, and I get that that's, like, the idea of them is, like, they're the more refined technology, but this is ridiculous.
Plus, what better inside of a spaceship than sort of a jump pack? Right?
Yeah, you got a jump pack too, which is pretty cool. I like the Ironkin, who's got the kind of the tech assistant, who's got the kind of
Hey, Caboose.
pad there, who's guiding them through the ship.
Yeah, but a reminder that the Ironkin are no different in the Asmogan than any other member of their
They
race.
are an equal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Up
they-
against them
they-
with Belgor Ravagers, so this is a really exciting kit. We haven't really seen Beastmen Warhammer 40,000 properly for a long time. We saw a few of them pop up in Blackstone Fortress, but they were definitely like the side thing rather than the main event.
I mean, these are Emperor worshipping beastmen, right?
I don't think so, though. There's a lot of chaos spikes on these guys. This is a brand new kit. It's very flexible, so much like lots of the other Kill Team kits we've seen, the bespoke Kill Team kits, you can build them in loads of different ways. There's different options for weapons and heads, and there's interchangeability between them. Each one is a specialist, so it's very definitely a combat-focused Kill Team, but you've got some slightly stealthy ones, you've got some magic-y ones, you've got some with extra equipment like smoke grenades and gas grenades, you've got some with bionic bits, some that like charging and ramming stuff. So if you're looking for an aggressive Kill Team, it gives you some options, and much like lots of the other recent Kill Teams like the Recruit and the Eldar, the level of detail on those kits is really, really lovely. So,
And the detail extends to the terrain as well. You can see we've got one of the last expansions to the set. We've got a bunch of coward pods that you can jump into to get away from the trouble that's facing you. It's kind of an amazing set to finish off that sort of well-rounded collection of Into the
you
Dark
get a little
terrain.
medical bay, which is quite cool. There's some stasis pods.
Again, another form of coward pod. I get it. This is a sort of a theme that's running on here, but Beastmen kind of have that vibe to the monkey.
I think what
Honestly,
I really like about it is it's got a feel
this
of,
kit would be
it's
worth
got a feel of
getting
like a really
for the
old-school Warhammer
terrain
set, 'cause you've basically
alone.
got dwarves fighting.
Because I
beastmen, right?
really like
But they've
that
put
terrain.
them in space in a spaceship, and they've all got like laser guns.
Those
and
props
chainsaws and
also
stuff.
look really
And
cool.
laser
so.
knuckle dusters.
And laser knuckle dusters.
Thing
It
is,
just
though, is you have a
feels
3D
really,
printer,
really Warhammer
I
at
can
the
just
same
print
time
all
as
this
being,
shit.
completely science fiction.
And
I
once
have-
again,
I
this-
have
this whole
some
thing we've been
STLs
fighting
that
over
look
for all these months
very
is
similar to a lot of these. So.
It's crashing, yeah. So the climactic final installment to the current season of Kill Team, two very, very fun Kill Teams to expand it. Just a really fun box.
I'm
It's what-
excited
soon.
too, not to like give another shout out to Adepticon, but right over there in the other room, we've got literally what, like a 100+ player event of nothing but Into the Dark terrain and everything else happening tomorrow and the next day. So a lot of excitement around the end of the season of Into the Dark, but also it's still kind of alive and kicking with people playing in it all over the world right
Yeah, yeah. And Into the Dark as a way to play won't go away. That's like your
Yep.
inside
Evergreen.
Kill Team. So it gives a very different feel from playing Kill Team when you have ruins and things. It's a very claustrophobic, close quarters thing. And both those Kill Teams actually, Leagues of Votann, very durable, lots of very dangerous short-range weaponry, and the Beastmen team, very good close combat. You'd imagine. I haven't seen the stats in
that
huge
is a
detail, but
print.
They're
Beastmen
pretty
True.
notoriously hard to kill.
Let's not forget that in Kill
I
Team,
have two
all
of
these
them.
teams are considered to be elites in a sense, right? These are not your run-of-the-mill dregs. These are sort of the best of the best going on,
Yeah.
you know, especially difficult
The best of
special
course.
operations kind of, yeah, the best of course. Bravo, well done, Eddie. Excellent joke, I love it. Anyway, what do we have next? Well, we've above the world and crashing into it to under the world.
I don't know anything about that, so I'm just gonna let them talk about it. I have no idea what that is, nor care, to be honest, on that one. But the metagaming welcome. Old man Lionel looks like shit. He's too short, too thin. And why does he look like an asset flip of Gilliman, but with gray hair and old man beard? It's a fucking insult. His helm versions look good, but what the fuck? Yeah, that's a fair criticism. To be perfectly honest, I think the model looks really nice. I like the detail on the model. Again, I'm kind of not fully there with the shield. I think they should have saved that for Dorn. I really don't want the lion to have the Emperor's shield. It's just me. But I think the model overall looks designed. And I will say I disagree with the point that it looks like an asset flip of Gilliman. Do I think that they started with the template of using Gilliman's model in... Yeah, it definitely looks like they used the same template. But they've definitely put enough detail on it and changed enough to make it its own. Plus, the head sculpt is entirely unique to him. I would say, for me, it felt like they were really aiming, at least with the model, it really looks like they were trying to give a Tywin Lannister kind of vibe to the lion's face and head to me. But the actual artwork, like the drawn artwork of his face, makes him look like an entirely different character than the one that's actually on the model. As for the too short, yeah, I'd agree he's too short. He needs to be a bit taller, because they showed a side-by-side comparison with him and Gilliman's model and something else, and Gilliman looked bigger. So the lion definitely needs to be sized up. I don't know what was with that. Thorn would get the glove. Thorn should pick up the black sword and join his true sons. Glove to cover the missing arm. But I'm lost. What the fuck is he so god old? Yeah, that is a point I agree with. Like, why is he so old? I asked that, and I still don't know. Like, I hope there is a lore explanation. Not that, you know, it's GW at this point. Having faith in what they're gonna write in the lore is sad, but I can still hope for it. I can still hope they're not gonna fuck it up. But yeah, like, I don't know why he looks old, whereas Gilliman looks... Gilliman still looks the way he did back in the day. Granted, that still doesn't look young. He looks like a middle-aged 40-year-old. But why does the lion look like he's an aging... Man, like... Okay. It just... Lore-wise, it doesn't make sense. Because normal Space Marines barely show their age, even after 1,000 years of service. You're telling me a Primarch, which is supposed to be an even more genetically refined being, to the point that they're called demigods, looks so much older. Yeah, but just because he wasn't in a stasis pod doesn't mean he should suddenly look almost geriatric. The man, and especially in the drawing artwork they showed of him, he looked like he was in his 70s. Is the lion returning? Yes, the lion is returning. They showed off his new model and everything. He's coming back. He's actually, by this, in terms of the hobby, he is now back. His model has been showcased. I'm sure pre-orders are starting soon. He's back. Fully. Although they already kind of revealed he was coming back, because they have not been they blew their load on that surprise all day today. Like they put a video of a lion on their YouTube channel waking up to an alarm bell. Like, you can't get more transparent than that. So he dyed his hair and grew a beard? I don't know. Like, oh, he already had a beard. But it's just, it looks wrong. Like, he should not have aged like that. Even after 10,000 years. I don't care if it's been 10,000 years or not. The Primarchs are supposed to have basically virtually stopped aging by their physical prime. Like, but to be fair, it's never been explicitly said that they don't age, period, so I'm not gonna assign that to them. But I will as much this: if a normal Astartes barely shows their age after 1,000 years of service, then I think a Primarch should only look, even after 10,000 years, should only look like they've aged a couple of years. Like, if they looked 20 back during the heresy, they shouldn't look more than 35 to 40 now, in the 40th millennium. I'm sorry, 41st millennium. It's just, for me, that is the part that doesn't make sense to me. Why does he look like he's aged almost double his physical age in the time he's been asleep? I'm sorry, I don't agree with the idea. It's like, oh, he wasn't in stasis, therefore he aged like shit. I'm sorry. I'm fine with them showing a little bit of age with that, but to go from looking like a young, fit, like, oh, hold on. Girly man.
That is what the preachers cry from the spires of their temples. What commanders tell the soldiers in their service. The Indomitus Crusade meets with triumph after triumph. Day by day we tear Imperium Nihilus from the despoiler's grip. And though we are beset on all sides, with each battle we drive back the mutant, the heretic, the alien. As I speak these words, our forces engage the remnants of Leviathan.
This looks like, this looks like a cinematic for a video game from 10 years ago. Give or take.
Reclaiming lost worlds, atoning for old shames. A crusade to cleanse the stars. Taking the fight to the enemy.
God, I love the shaking. It looks like it's a remake of the Dawn of True trailer. Dawn of War 2 trailer, sorry.
We routed the Tyranids at Baal. We broke their high fleet. Soon, their foulness will be but a memory. That is what the preachers say.
And the apothecary is...
Save us. Lies will not protect us. But it is our hope that will damn us. The spies in the slums. Our people sing of victory. Victory as the galaxy burns. Victory as the Imperium rots around us. Victory as humanity rages against the dying of the light. Victory.
Was that supposed to be Gilliman's voice?
New edition of Warhammer 40,000.
So that is the 10th edition trailer.
Who knew?
Nobody called that.
Nobody had any idea.
Like, everyone knew 10th edition was getting announced. Let's be honest. Okay. Okay. Oh.
When you watched, it was beautiful and it was stunning. You watched Adeptus Sororitas and the Ultramarines crushing some Necrons. There was a little bit.
Anyone else feel kind of
Oh yeah, that was
like they downgraded from the 9th edition trailer?
to a T.
Or is that just me?
First time I've seen it tonight, and I am still excited at how not happy it was.
Well, I think it just gives you like a sense of the absolute horrificness of
It's crap.
Ah. Just generally, Warhammer 40,000 is an absolutely awful even for a space marine.
Yes, they did downgrade. 9th edition trailer was godlike in comparison. Wow, so 10th edition is Ultra Smurfs needlessly feeding themselves. Yeah, I'm sick and tired. Like, can we please get some, like, anyone else to be the poster boys? Anyone. But, yeah, it's a total downgrade. I'm sorry, it's a total downgrade.
World's most popular tabletop miniatures game.
Okay, let's see this.
Players command armies of genetically enhanced super soldiers, brutal monsters, powerful aliens, and destructive war machines to play out spectacular battles in the 41st millennium.
I have to say this. It's a bad look when the physical painted miniatures look way better than your professionally CG animated trailer to announce your latest edition. Like, they show the animation and then they flash to the painted models. The painted models look way better. I think that's a bad sign. Yeah, because the thing is that animation, they rounded everything out. They made it look so cartoony. And yeah, you can have like creatures being ripped to shreds all you want. But when you make everything look so rounded and smooth and kind of pudgy like they did in that animation, I felt like I was watching a cartoon. Like a kid's cartoon.
All of the rules for everyone's armies via the data sheets and their army rules will be available for free.
From the darkness between the stars, a twisted mockery of evolution
God, I love that man's
spawns
voice.
fresh horrors.
I love it when
It's
he
a
voices
galaxy
audiobooks.
at war. This is the onset of what the Imperium will regard as the fourth tyrannic war. This is the largest Tyranid swarm ever recognized in the galaxy, emerging when no one's expected it. The Segmentum Pacificus.
To be a warrior of the Emperor in such times is to face an array of nightmares.
What we've managed to achieve with this edition is a game that players of Warhammer 40,000 will love for its tactical depth and choices, but is streamlined and plays much quicker.
The end result is faster while still keeping
No.
all the flavor that you've come to love in Warhammer 40,000.
No,
Players
don't
who've
make
been
it
with
fat.
Warhammer
It's
40,000
already
for the
too
last 35 years,
streamlined.
they've never seen anything like this before. We've never shown conflict at this scale.
Immersive and thrilling new gameplay. Discover a major new narrative in the Fourth Tyrannic War. The new edition
I
of
do like
Warhammer
that it's another
40,000
Tyrannic War.
deploys this summer.
But I'm not, no.
That's the Warhammer 40,000 studio had to say about some of the changes. It sounds very exciting.
It's very exciting. We'll talk about it.
It's not exciting. No, you said the worst words you could have possibly said. More streamlining? The game already got too streamlined in 9th edition. The game is already like they're already taking, they already took so many things out of the game and turned it into nothing but point capture for like the tournaments and shit. Like, why? Why streamline it more? 1,000-point games but 2 experienced players can get through in a 1,000-point game in less than 2 hours. Less than 2 hours. And yeah, to someone who doesn't know anything about the tabletop, you might be like, oh, 2 hours? That's like wicked long for like a tabletop game. 40k used to be able to be something you played in sessions. One game, one war of dominion between 2 players, or domination, where you were trying to annihilate the other player's army. You had to take pictures of where you guys were after a 6-hour session, and then play it again. You had to reserve the day for it. Now, some streamlining I agreed with in 9th, but not as much as they did, and certainly not more. What do they want this to be? A game of checkers? Because to streamline it, they have to take rules out. Like they have to remove aspects and entire attributes of the game for it to flow faster. That's how they've been streamlining it. Wait a minute. What's with that profile? Well, the Terminators look really uniform here. Where's my phone? I gotta look up something. There it is. Just marching and standing there, shooting nids while dying as being actual Space Marines. Yeah, no, the Space Marine 2 game is gonna make this look so bad by comparison. I mean, I hope so. Come on. Wait. Are you serious? They could be Firstborn Marines or they could be Primarchs. Who's to say who's inside? You guys, by naming them, are they just calling them Terminators? Wait, what?
They still have their Crux Terminatus with those shards of the Emperor's own armor. You guys look there at the Terminator in a bit more detail, and you can see that like every single element of it, all like the pipes and the cabling and the Storm Bolter and the helmet, they are recognizably the Terminators that you know and love. But all of it, the detail is so much crisper. The proportions and the pose are so much cooler. When you see these guys on the battlefield, they really have a
cooler subjective.
And obviously the Terminators come with all sorts of cool kit. Power Fist and Storm Bolter are standard. The unit also obviously comes with an assault cannon. We saw one of those earlier as well. So it's just great to see such an iconic unit back in Warhammer 40,000.
I can't wait to see more of them, but I feel like we need to see the other side of the spectrum as well. But first, I think it's good to highlight the difference in scale between the Terminators of old and the Terminators of today. And you can kind of see in this how their bulk and their size has not rendered the old Terminators to be tiny necessarily, but really fits much more prominently within the range of miniatures that are available for the Space Marine faction. Kind of perfectly land in that new wave of miniatures we've seen over the last 7 years.
Yeah, they look really good as well, facing off against something like the more recent Chaos Terminators, some of the kind of the bigger character models. So your something like a Primarch, maybe like Gulliman or the Lion or something like that, leading a squad of these guys. And obviously every chapter, all the main chapters we know about, have their own particular special brand of Terminator. So the Death Watch, the Archangels, the First Company veterans of the Ultramarines that have their particular beef against the Tyranids.
They do have quite a beef.
They've got some serious beef. But so every chapter's
Young whippersnappers can't seem to get a complex game like the old editions. I mean, there have been times where the game has arguably been too complicated, don't get me wrong. There has been a little bit of rule bloat in some older editions. But in my personal opinion, the game peaked during 7th edition. Bias, I know. Some think it was 2nd edition. Me, I think it was 7th edition. I stand by that. Like, that's when the games, I think, were a perfect pace. Like, you could have really long games, even between 2 experienced players, but they didn't take up, like, a whole weekend. Like, you could still fit them in a day. But you made a day of it. Like, it was, like, 6-7 hours. Maybe a little bit more, if you were, like, really taking your time. And I think a game like 40K, it's a war game. It should have complex strategies you can implement in the game. It should have these wide-spanning options with the army choices and point values and the structures that you bring to the table, literally. So I don't think it should be a game that they should aim to streamline. Like, oversimplifying a game that like this, like I said before, the only way to do that is to remove options from the player base to use. And bottleneck them into specific ways of approach. And if you do that, you kind of defeat the whole freedom aspect of a war game. You take away that strategy, you take away that careful thought process, that careful breakdown, like, okay, this is my enemy, this is the strategies they can implement, but here's other strategies they can also implement. Here's these wide-reaching approaches and ideas that they can kind of throw at me. Here's how I might counter this, how I might counter that. But if both players are getting bottlenecked into very specific play styles because they're streamlining too many systems and not giving as much options to us, the players, all in the name of making the game shorter, which, why would you want people to play your game less? Like, I don't agree with that mentality. Well, who has that mentality? I want my people to play my game less. What? Wait, I have a Tyranid armor? I think I have 30 Tyranids painted up right. Only 30? Oh, jeez, he must be running one of the Monster Bash strategy with them. But Asmo, they're a model company, not a rules company. Ah, fuck off. The long playtime is what puts off a lot of new people. I got my friend into 40k, but the moment I said the game could be 3 to 5 hours, he said fuck that and went to Blood Bowl instead. Yeah, but I don't think that... now, from a bit, if you're making the argument from a business standpoint, that's why they're doing it. And yeah, that I could see that being the why. If you're arguing that they should be doing it with that, I entirely disagree, Homeless Stone. I entirely disagree. Because if we're going to completely eradicate what makes 40k a war game, if we completely eradicate the idea of what a war game is supposed to be on the tabletop, why not just play checkers? It's cheaper. Why not just play chess? Why not just play any like Othello? That's 2 players facing off. They're super streamlined and fast, and they're cheap. The whole charm, the whole soul of a war game is that sprawling strategy, that careful, complex army structure. All of these intricate aspects and details you have to consider and have to bring to the table and literally put on the table. That's the soul of a war game. That's what 40k has had for so long. That's what Warhammer Fantasy had for so long. That's what other, like, Conflict 47, Warcry, even Star Wars Legion, like, what makes a war game so intriguing, what makes it so enthralling to play, is it's more than chess. It's more than checkers. It's something infinitely better. Because you can take your time, you can build strategy, you can look at your enemy's army and come up with so many different approaches. So can they. Your motions and attacks and weaponry choices are just as important as your moment-to-moment choice of target on the tabletop. This army, this unit shoots this army. This unit alpha strikes here. All of these freeing elements are what makes it so much better. But if we're gonna run with this mentality, this retarded mentality, mind you, I think it's retarded. This mentality that's like, oh, well, it's good, we can't get new people to play because, oh, a game could be 5 to 6 hours and they fucking bail. It's like, okay, they weren't gonna play it. Goodbye. And we'll stick with the people who are gonna give it a shot. Like, to change the core identity of something for the sake of the wider audience, to bring in new people, is fucking retarded. Because new people are still going to find a reason not to play it. They're still going to... First of all, if the 5 to 6 hour playtime is what threw them off and not the model price, I'm sorry, that's just dumb. That throws people off way more than the fucking 5 to 6 hour playtime. Way more. And GW, you don't see GW for the sake of new players lowering the price. So why should they... But instead, they'd rather jeopardize the identity of the whole point of a war game. Continuing to streamline it, continuing to make it more and more baby friendly. What's the point? If they continue down this path of just brain dead simplification of a war game, they completely kill the identity of it. At some point, the question is genuine. Why not just play checkers? That's streamlined. It's a war game by all accounts. It's two sides of a board fighting each other. It's the same exact idea. It's just the most simple version. If 40K is going down this route of let's just keep simplifying it, why not skip the middleman of this and just go straight to checkers and save shit tons of money?
Whereas some of the psychic powers that might buff a unit or debuff a unit are more baked into an ability within the data sheet as opposed to an entire phase oriented around the functionality, and it better reflects the sort of strengths and weaknesses of different psychers. Someone like a Primaris
Hasbro names on it, buy them out. I mean, yeah, maybe that is their goal.
Magnus the Red,
simplify it down to the point where it's just
Magnus the Red
brain
has
dead.
A ranged psychic attack, but it's like a
any
really
loser
good
with some free time.
Absolutely,
will,
and it's
as well as a range of
way
other
that he
psychic
works,
abilities,
as well as opposed to just a generic psychic ability that every other psyker has.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about morale and battle shock there. I think obviously we'll dive into all of these rules in a lot more detail on the Warhammer community site over the coming weeks and months. But I think one of the things that I really like about the new edition, the changes, is that you don't lose models in morale anymore. You don't have you don't fail a morale tech and actually just take units off. It just changes the way that unit interacts with the game.
It does. It works much more like a unit that's been broken up and banged up within a very fast-paced, sort of almost modern firefight, and that those units might not interact as well with rules and with grabbing objectives and other things as they normally would. Additionally, it has much more relevance throughout the game, whereas today you might, kill off most of the models in a unit. They barely pass the morale test. A couple models survive, and they go hide in a corner on an objective all game, and they're basically fine from then on out, even though most of their units have been devastated. Battle Shock will have less of an impact on models disappearing from the board and more of an impact on testing their metals.
How reliable is that unit now in the battlefield, basically?
And once a unit has been damaged to a certain degree,
strat someone asked for this. I mean, I would hope not, but GW, whether they're asked for it or not, are simplifying.
Should we talk about stratagems a little bit?
There's definitely fewer stratagems to remember. There's many more stratagems.
I know you've missed, Gabe, a good chunk of the stream, and I'm not going to recap everything, but they said something really fucking bad about 10th edition, and their goal with 10th edition, GW's goal with it. They want to further simplify the game and streamline. Well, they use the term streamline. I use the term simplify, because the only way to quote-unquote streamline and make the game more fluid, as they put it, and flow faster, is to virtually bottleneck players into specific strategies based on army, and remove the freedom of choice. To remove the number of things that they can do.
Also, let's be very clear.
That's the only way you can make this game faster. I can't think of another way they do it. Except maybe decrease the point values of armies and streamline it by literally decreasing the size of the conflicts. That's just as bad, because again, a lot of people want to be able to play a 1,000-point game and see a large army of theirs on the tabletop. If you either way of simplifying it, whether it's removing entire rule sets, strats, and stats possibly, I hope not on that last one, I hope not on all of them, but particularly on that last one.
Yep, and you're no longer necessarily
If they remove any of those, or they increase the value, yeah, they would just make it kill team. Exactly. So that's my thing, is like, I fear that either avenue of simplifying the game and streamlining it, they're going to just kind of kill the core identity of a war game, especially 40k as a war game. It's just, it's shit. Like, it's genuinely frightening what they're doing, because at this point, what are we going to have if they continue, like...
Army building itself, as you saw back there, I don't know if we go back to that one image we had just before this one. Army building itself has simplified, and it's, when we say it's simplified, it is a much more accessible thing to get into, and we've done a lot of interesting things with the rules to make it more innovative and more immersive to build a diverse army, as opposed to just taking only the best units, or on paper the best units. And the way it's been simplified is you take a character, your warlord, take up to 3 of any data sheet, or up to 6 of any basically troop or dedicated transport data sheet, and that's it. And so you need to have a warlord, and then you take up to 3 of most units. Additionally, there's been a great deal of work in putting things like what used to be individual unit stratagems and other abilities into the data sheet itself, and there's a variety of rules that are tailored to work with this type of army building. A good example being that a Space Marine captain might have a really powerful ability, but only one model per turn can use that ability, and so taking a second or third one isn't necessarily a value add. And there's many different units that, instead of there being a stratagem where after your unit shoots and targets a unit, now your other units get a benefit against it, there might be a key unit that provides that buffer benefit to your army. And so working in a combined arms way and leveraging different data sheets into your army in an innovative way is oftentimes, by design, much more impactful and useful and interesting than simply taking 3 of one thing and 3 of the other. So army building has been simplified, but the depth and interest in actually building a diverse force has been a major focus for how the data sheets have been built and how the army rules have been designed.
So every unit basically has got their thing. Like, they've got the thing that they bring to your army. So
absolutely,
in a way that at the moment you might be relying on stratagems or something to do a particular niche or to fill a particular need. A lot of the time, the unit and the data sheet will allow you to do that. So that's why you take that particular unit.
Much greater focus on your army doing the work of being an army, as opposed to how can I take the most optimal units and then use my stratagems or the sort of front of my book to do all of the work.
Yeah, so I think we had an example data sheet that might be worth talking through some of the things, because it looks quite a lot different from the data sheets we have at the moment.
Data sheets are heavily different, and with the decision to index, there's also the opportunity to revamp the way a data sheet looks and works and is designed. Here you can see the new termagants, which is quite cool. They have an ability that focuses on how the unit behaves and is very thematically tied to them.
I guess one of the things before we get too into it is that the data sheet does look quite different, but actually the effect in terms of what it does in the game is not a million miles away from the way that Warhammer 40,000 works today. So
no, it's going to seem very familiar. It's not a move to something like Age of Sigmar, where every unit hits or wounds on a fixed number or something like that. Instead, it's still very similar to what you'll remember or recognize from Warhammer 40,000 today. But the ranged weapons and melee weapons and things like that have been moved into their own profile. You'll notice that attacks and ballistic skill and weapon skill and strength.
Yeah, they still exist. They're just attached to the weapon rather than about the fighter.
That allows us to do a wide variety of things with the way that the units are designed, such as something like chainswords or a Space Marine Captain's Power Fist versus a Space Marine Sergeant's Power Fist. Those things can all be somewhat different, and they can reflect the way the individual models work rather than being hard tied to the individual model's attacks or strength characteristics.
So we've got a few questions in the chat about OC. Talk a bit about that.
Objective control. So OC effectively establishes the value that each model in the unit has if it is in range of an objective marker. So a unit of 10, now things like objective secured as a rule, those are gone. Instead, it's reflected with the individual units. Each model may have a different objective control characteristic. So each termagant is worth effectively 2 points if it's within range of an objective. Whereas
are they removing
that may be bigger
OBSEC?
or more robust but isn't really focused on grabbing objectives may only have an OC value.
Do I misunderstand?
But it also means things like knights, which
have a much higher
particularly struggled with objective control, can actually now count as lots of. The OC could be quite high.
What the fuck?
One grot.
What the fuck? What? Oh my god. What's with the min-maxing bullshit?
Things like what is optimal mean is some of the folks who play the game at some levels focus on. Instead, you can go, well, this unit may not have the same damage up, but it's much better objectives, which still remain.
I imagine termagants are going to be relatively cheap, right? So that's probably one of the cheapest.
I think they're going to cost the same.
So wait, I might have totally misunderstood something they said. They're talking really fast.
Exactly what termagants tend to do.
But they're talking about like different units that like they have the OC, right? Objective control. So does that mean OBSEC is completely being removed, and in place of that, now each unit is now going to have a value of how good it is at OBSECing, or sorry, objective controlling via their point? And if that's the case, then everyone's going to build, and not to mention the stuff they mentioned about the weapons and things being tied to the weapons less than the actual specific unit anymore. So, oh god, this is frustrating. Okay, so that tells me that 10th edition, just like 9th, is going to be hyper focused on objective control, which fucking sucks. I hate 9th edition for that reason. I hate how obsessed 9th edition is with OBSEC. Every tournament with 9th edition was about objective control. Not domination, not dominion, like no, not games of actually just wiping out the other team and having a better strategy of killing the other team. No, controlling objectives. That was it. That's all it was about. I fucking hated that. And now they're doing it. They're hyper focusing again with it for 10th edition. So everything bad that sucked about 9th, they're doubling down on for 10th. The objective-based tournaments and games, doubling down. And to the point where they've added the objective bullshit to their stat sheet. It's so, the objective part of the game is now not just a game mode, which they obsessed about in tournaments, but now it seems like the whole game is being designed around it. To the point where objective, like OBSEC isn't just a trait certain units have. Now they have an objective control value on their stat sheet. I miss domination. Oh. This is so aggravating. Oh, I'm so mad. I'm not gonna lie, I'm fucking mad. I never thought they'd be able to do it, but they're actually making me say it. 9th edition was better than 10th. It still sucked ass. Like, they have every fucking tournament just be OBSEC obsessed control, which sucked, because I'm an orc player. Like, orcs are my army in 40k. They're my favorite army. They have been since 6th edition, when I started playing the game. At the very tail end of 6th edition is when I entered 40k. Orcs have been my thing. I loved games that were all just about domination, about control, about wiping out the other army. And for some reason, some dipshit retard at GW is just like, oh, let's make everything about objective control. What about people who play NIDs? What about people who play orcs? What about people that play armies that they want to just thrash another army with. They want to smash against them. Bam, 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 bam. They want to show how strong they can be by wiping out the other army. Do you know how unsatisfying it has been? How completely unsatisfying it has been to play orcs in 9th edition. Because instead of sending my orcs with a wah to just fucking bum rush the other team and push my melee and just smash, 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 crump, 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 instead, I'm holding my orc boys in these little corners because of their obsec. I'm having whole turns where I skip moving my orcs and not moving to attack. Why? Because my secondary is fucking, what's a good example? Raise the banners high. My secondary is raise the banners high. So I have to waste a turn with the whole squad of orc boys as they raise the banner so I can get some extra fucking points on that particular objective. While also still getting points from the objective itself with obsec. That's not fun. I'm sick of this shit. Like, can we please stop with the objective obsession? Why? They're streamlining the fucking game to the point where it's not, you don't have as much freedom with your strategies and your approach with your armies. They're oversimplifying mechanics of the game yet again. It's just, it's not even a war game at this point. It's capture the flag. Except you have 5 flags on the table. And certain units are better at capturing said flags than other units. Matt, you make a good point on Meta Gaming. Yeah, that's probably why it looks old as shit. Woke up, saw 10th edition. Oh my god.
To share this time with us, to share the excitement with us. We've actually done it twice now, once live for Adepticon and once live for all of you. It's been a pleasure. Eddie, thanks for having me. Did you have a favorite?
Obviously, the new Warhammer 40,000 is pretty cool. But did you have like a favorite thing in the other previews we had?
I was a big fan of the Lion.
It's pretty cool.
It's always cool to see when a Primarch comes up. But honestly, I'm going to tell you that the Seraphon, yep. I mean, they scratch an itch for me that connects to everything from, you know, classic movies of yore to owning every single dinosaur book growing up. And it's one of the armies that I'm actually actively collecting and painting now. So I can't pick just one thing. Suffice to say, it's an exciting summer and year to come for Warhammer.
Yeah, it's going to be really good times ahead for every single game system. Basically, is getting treats in the next few months.
Thanks all. We won't keep you up any longer. You can hear more in the future. Eddie, thanks for having me.
No problem. See you guys.
Oh my god. That was a chore to get through. That was a fucking chore. Oh, kill me. Kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me. I don't know what's sadder, the fact that they're doing this, or the fact that there are people who are saying in the chat like GWWWWW my ass. Granted, this is just sub only. Sorry, followers on the chat. No, I can comment. Okay, never mind. The Lion Intent, that was a solid announcement. No, it wasn't. No, it really wasn't. It really fucking wasn't. Oh my god. They need to make 9.5 for the fans exterminating teams. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty sure people can't. I'm pretty sure someone's already made like 9th edition anyway. I know 9th edition, someone had to have made some level of like custom games. I mean, you had to play anything other than objective based games. Like all the booklets that came out for pre-made games and modules to play for 9th edition 40k were all objective secure. So if you wanted to do anything but objective based games, you had to come up with it yourself. Like you wanted to just duke it out with another player, you guys just had to set something up yourselves. Like people already had to do that shit. So I'm sure someone like just wrote down all their stuff and put it up somewhere. Oh, God. Hey, Devino. Oh, the thing is, for me, it just feels like they're just trying to simplify a war game, which is the kind of the antithesis of the idea of a war game. It's supposed to be this big, sprawling war. Like, you're supposed to have as much variety and approach as possible. Like in a real war, there would be massive fucking options in terms of what strategies you can implement. It's just down to how smart you are as a commander to come up with it. So many feet thick should the core rulebook be? It doesn't need to be that thick. You can just lay out like the core rules are fine. They just need like the core rules are fine. Like 9th edition speaking. They just don't just leave them. Like just leave them. And give us more stratagems. Give us more stuff. Give us more secondary options with our armies. Make the armies feel better to play. And make them feel more unique. Their goal right now is to do the fucking opposite. And yeah, that you're right, Yokai. Like their goal right now is definitely to simplify the game to the point where retards can play it and feel all good inside with how fucking simple it is. I'm sorry, but if you're one of those dipshits, I'm sorry, just play checkers. If you want a simple game that takes 5 minutes to play and there's no complexity to it, this isn't a hobby for you. Like that should be the approach. It shouldn't be, oh, we have to completely rewrite everything so we can make it accessible for you. No, just sometimes things are just too complex. But that's the core identity of it. Go play checkers. Go play chess. Go play something with far more simplicity to it. Those alternatives exist already for you. Like, if you're just gonna dumb something down to the point where it's no longer what it was supposed to be, what's the point? Like at this point, their goal is to make 40k checkers, but really expensive checkers, where each of the little chips, instead of being a chip, is just really fucking expensive model. I swear, if anyone supports like the simplification of the game, I'm sorry, but you're not a fan of war games. I'm not gonna tell you you're not a fan of 40k. I mean, people are. The beauty of 40k is I think you can be a fan of 40k and never play the game. Like, it's just down to the lore, right? Like, you're a fan of the lore. You're a fan of like the minis, maybe just to paint them and have them and collect them, kind of like Gundams. But you're definitely not a fan of the fucking game. You're not a player of 40k if you desire a simplified game. And even that's a good point. Even if you don't like the 40k game, you can play Kill Team if you want If you want simplified 40k, just play Kill Team. That's already simplified 40k. But they seemingly want to make 40k even more basic as shit. Yeah, so many people praise it. I think that's what's most disturbing. Is like, they literally just said, we're trying to kill the whole point of a war game. And people in the chat were like, oh, GWW! It's like, no, it wasn't. Like, I can forgive people for being a little fucking caught up only in the announcement that 10th is out and now, you know, the Lion's out. People probably caught up in that and they didn't really pay attention. But the guys literally just said, we're not only doubling down on objective secure being the only way to play the fucking game, we're now making it a core stat for each unit's ability to control a point. But we're also going to simplify the game further than it already is. And for what? So more people can play the game. Okay, those people that want 40k to be simplified can go play Kill Team. And if that's still too complicated, checkers. Chess. Othello. Like, that's also an option. God, that was depressing. I feel like I need a shot. But okay, they already have that. It's called Kill Team. That's the whole thing. They already have that. Like, if you want to play simplified 40k, it exists. It's called Kill Team. And if that's still too complicated for you, go play checkers. Not sure where this mentality comes from where people just want to be babied. I really don't get it. They do have exclusive Kill Team sets. They advertise one, actually. And they've had them for years. That's why it's all the more frustrating and confusing. Okay, well, I've already given my thoughts about that. Let me try and focus on the good. Have the Crunchyroll's version for tourney-based and a quick setup version. I don't mean a smaller version either, still 2,000 point armies, just quicker rules / setup. Again, like, Kill Team. There you go. Yeah, you don't have as many models on the tabletop, but clearly you can't handle that. Not you, like the royal you. Like, if you look at 40k and your first size, it's too complicated, then don't play it. Like, it's your choice as a player to play the simplified version of Kill Team, or to play something else entirely, or to play 40k. If you choose to play 40k, you take on the responsibility as a player to research your army, to research the Codex, to look into the core rules of the game, and to learn all of it. And don't give me this. I'm sorry, but I'm sick and tired of hearing some people claim, like, bitch, like, oh, it's just too much. It's a hobby. You invest your time into it. You're not meant to just learn it in like a fucking. You're not meant to like fucking learn it in like 5 minutes. It's meant to be like, before you play your first tournament, you sit there and read the damn thing like twice. So the core rule book, and then you read like fucking the codexes like 3 or 4 times. And then you write down things in a notebook of like oh, okay, this is the stratagem I might want to use. It's supposed to be that complex. To complain about it being that complex is to completely miss the point of a war game. It's supposed to take up your time. If you don't want it to take up your time, if you don't want to take the time to learn it and pay attention and to read through it carefully, then don't. Just go play checkers. Play Kill Team. You have options outside of 40k to play. If you want simplicity, play checkers. You want a little complexity, play Kill Team. You want true wargaming, play 7th edition 40k. Even 8th was a little bit better. Ugh, why is my ear so red? Jesus Christ. That looks like fucking on fire. The hell am I seeing in the mirror? What the fuck? My other ear like that? Kinda, yeah. What the fuck? I don't feel that warm. What the hell? Look at that. My ear's on fire. So angry my ears hurt? I mean, maybe. That might be it. That is fucking over the top red. Alright, well, my frustration with 10th edition cast aside. Let's try and talk about some other stuff. let's talk about the Lion. All right, let's talk about lore. Let's talk about anything but 10th edition for a moment here, because I just don't want to focus on it forever. I'm more or less just repeating myself at this point with talking about 10th edition. So let's talk about the Lion. So the Lion is back. The Lion has returned. What does this mean? I believe you summoned your inner Irish. I already have that. That's always on my face. But with the Lion's reintroduction into the lore, I mean, I kind of agreed with chat earlier when I asked you guys to vote for like one or two, like one being like they optimistically like they fucking nail it, right? Or are they more likely to just kind of throw him in and not really handle it appropriately? I agree with most. I really have so little confidence in the Black Library people to handle it correctly. So I don't know. Let's assume on the more positive angle. Will he be on the bright side or the dark side? Well, I'm gonna let me try and let me try and look on the bright side with like the Lion, and let's assume the best from Black Library. Let's say they put Dan Abnett on it, and he turns off his political activism bullshit off and just does what he used to do best, write 40k. I think they can possibly have a banger of a story on their hands with the Lion and introducing him. One thing I definitely want is a brief moment where the Lion's composure, like when he reunites with Guilliman. The Lion's always been a calculated, cold bastard, right? He's always been really calculated with how he reacts to things. Kind of sociopathic. Or psychopathic, actually. I kind of want that to slightly crack a little bit when he first reunites with his brother. Like when he meets up with Guilliman. I want there to be a level of visible frustration with the state of not only the Imperium, but everything. The state of everything. I want there to be some level of that kind of seep through. Not to the point where it's like obvious to everyone in the room. Like you do need to pay attention to his mannerisms, to his tone, to his body language. There's just this brief crack of his composure that shows through. And from there, I do want some intrigue with like him reintegrating with the Imperium, with him like trying to organize his own sons of Caliban and the Dark Angels. Possibly ousting out some Fallen that they might not have caught. You know, I definitely think there's like a lot of individual stories they can go into with the Lion's introduction. But ideally, the first move would him to be like, obviously, see the state of his current chapter / Legion. That's a chapter. But you know what I mean when I say / Legion. The successors. Him kind of take in where the Imperium is at, kind of meet up with Guilliman, and then have his reaction to the Imperium and the state of it. And I would really like him to blame Guilliman, because let's be honest, it is Guilliman's fault the Imperium is the way that it is. So we really need some of that addressed, because GW themselves, when it comes to the Ultramarines and the Ultra Smurfs and Papa Smurf, with how they like handle that, they always like make him out to be like the most angelic, perfect, like best Primarch ever, all the fucking time. Despite the fact that he objectively does shit and has done shit that has fucked everything and continues to fuck everything. I want them to actually address that. I swear to Christ, if the Lion shows up, sees the way things are, and complains about it briefly, and Guilliman's just like, oh, well, I'm fixing it now. I'm not happy with it either. And the Lion immediately just goes, oh, okay, cool. I'll try and help out on my end. Fuck that. That's so boring. Not in line with the Lion's character. There's so much more they need to do. So for me, the Lion needs to have a level of conflict with Guilliman. I don't necessarily know if that should be in direct like conflict for control of the Imperium, but it should definitely be... There should definitely be that political intrigue. I'm not saying, like, basically Game of Thrones, but 40k version. Because that's how it would work between the Lion and Gilliman. Like, they're not buddies by any stretch. So, if you're ever going to have a kind of underhanded conflict within the Loyalists, this is the only pairing that makes sense with that. The Lion and Gilliman. Maybe Corvus Corax and... Maybe Corvus and... No, because the thing is, I don't remember Corvus having that bad of a reputation with Gilliman. So yeah, I think the only way they could ever do that, right, is to have that Game of Thrones kind of vibe, like inner house conflict type shit, is with the Lion and Gilliman, with who we have to work with. Because if they brought Corvus was Deep Chill, which is true. Yeah. Because when I think about it, like every other Primarch, could we have that pairing with Gilliman to have that political intrigue? If it's if it's Lehman, no, I don't think there'd be any kind of political intrigue. Russ is too straightforward, and Gilliman would still do shit like behind Russ's back for sure. But Russ would never, like, hide his emotions to it. He would never play the political game. He would never try and, that's just... Unless they completely rewrote who Russ is as a person when he comes back, that's just not going to happen. Russ is too straightforward. He's too in your face, and he would immediately start a war with Gilliman. So that Game of Thrones vibe, political intrigue, just wouldn't happen between the two of them. If it was the Khan is, I don't know if the Khan's just not as confrontational to begin with when it comes to his brothers. At least that I can think of. Maybe I'm not thinking of a good enough example with it. But as far as I recall, the Khan wasn't a very confrontational person in regards to underhanded political intrigue in the background or open conflict like Russ. He's just more like, if I have a problem, I'm just going to avoid that issue here and move the fuck on. Like, I'm not going to address it. Well, I might address something that concerns me, but I'm not going to do underhanded politics, and I'm not going to confront it like Russ. I'm not going to get in your face. I'm just going to say fuck you behind your back and do what I want and move on. That's more the Khan's approach. Like, he's just not... That's not how the White Scars or him as a person ever kind of really approached those kinds of things. So political intrigue is out with them as well. Corvus Corax, like I said, it's... Next to the Lion, I could see Corvus being the only other one potentially to bring political intrigue into things. But to be quite frank, I think he'd be very submissive to Gilliman. Like, not entirely. Like, I don't think he'd completely bitch out and just be like, oh, yes, Daddy Gilliman, you are in charge. I think he'd confront him about some things, but would he pull political BS from in the background? No. And would he confront him like Russ? No. I think with Corvus, he would argue, he would state his case, but he would fall in line. Vulcan's kind of an interesting one, and to be honest, I'd have to break down my thoughts for a much longer period of time with Vulcan, but suffice to say, without going into too much detail, I think Vulcan would be more like the Khan in the way he would just kind of move on from the fight and not get in Gilliman's face or do political intrigue. He would just do his own thing while still being loyal, of course. And that leaves us with Dorn. If Dorn is alive. Dorn is the only other one to have, I think, the best possible storyline with Gilliman one-on-one next to the Lion because of the Praetorian of Terra stuff where Gilliman stole the throne from Dorn, basically gave him the middle finger, forced him to break apart his legion, and basically just gave a middle finger to the Emperor on top of it because Dorn was next in line for the Imperial throne as he was named the Praetorian of Terra, which was basically the replacement of War Master, which War Master was completely denounced as a title because of Horus. So literally, Dorn is dead. Only one source has said that, and that same source said a lot of other bullshit that has been contradicted numerous times. So that is not confirmed. That is still debated. There is a source in the lore that says he is dead, but that same source also said that the Phalanx has been destroyed. It also said something about Gilliman destroying something that other sources have referenced still being in existence. Yeah, there's more stuff to it. So, anyway. Ooh. So that source, I don't consider canon. If another source, so certainly a more recent one, were to come out and say Dorn is definitively dead, then I'd have to go with it. But that particular one that I know people reference, that one was as shaky of lore as you get. But anyway, with Dorn coming back, how would that go over? I think that's the only other one that'd be interesting, with like Gilliman as a one-on-one. Because of all the traitor bullshit that Gilliman pulled, Imperial Secundus, stealing the Imperial throne, ignoring Dorn's title of Praetorian, Praetorian of Terra. But for them, even then, I don't think that would be political intrigue. That would be more of a case of man-to-man drama. Like, I think Dorn, in that case, would come back, just kind of look around and go, huh, I told you you'd fuck it up, and kind of move on. Personal intrigue. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. It'd be more of a brother drama between Dorn and Gilliman, like on a man-to-man basis. But I don't think Dorn would try and underhand Gilliman with politics. And I don't think... that wouldn't be in his nature. And I don't think Gilliman would try and do anything underhanded to Dorn either. He couldn't afford to. It's not that I don't think he would, like, on principle. He doesn't have principle. But I don't think he would from a logistic standpoint, because there'd be no benefit. Especially with how the state of the universe is. They need as much support and power on their side as possible. So, to try and underhandedly fuck with Dorn... it would only be a net negative to do that. So really the only Primarch that could present political intrigue is the Lion. He's like the only one I could think of that is perfectly willing to do underhanded shit to fuck with others, because he did it in the very first book he was introduced. He's perfectly willing to be an ass and go the distance with how he fucks with people. And just look at what he did to his own adoptive father. The man is not exactly, he's not exactly the figure of control of his emotions. He certainly likes to pose himself as that, but he's actually quite flawed. And Redeemed Fulgrim would be nice. I mean, that's also in the cards, thankfully, because of the clone, but that clone is stuck in Trazen's collection box. So, and the thing is, I don't think GW remembers that they wrote that in. Because when was the last time they referenced that fucking non-Chaos Corrupt clone of Fulgrim? I don't think they've referenced it once since they wrote it in. So either they're saving that for a very specific thing later on, or I think they've forgotten. They must be saving. Noah, why do you have so much faith in GW? That's adorable. When did they write that in? Mid-2010s, I think. You're forced by God to have hope. And I'm glad someone does. So with 10th, how long before Fulgrim / Emperor's Children Codex? Long ass time. Actually, have they released every Codex supplement for 9th even? I don't think they have. Have they? I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they haven't gotten every Codex supplement out yet. No? Yes? Which is it? Nope or yes? What are they missing? Well, let me go through the list on top of my head. So I know they have the Orcs one out. I'm pretty sure they got Drakari, Eldari. They got Tau, right? I'll double check on Tau. I'm pretty sure they got 9th edition Tau. I think when it comes to things I'm pretty sure they're missing, I'm pretty sure they're missing the guard. Are they missing the guard? When in doubt, do the whole Google shit. I'm pretty sure they haven't gotten everybody. 9th edition. 40k. Codexes. So they have 9th edition Space Marines. Adeptus Mechanicus, Sororitas, Thousand Suns, Blood Angel Supplement, Space Wolf Supplement, Tyranids, Custodes, Orcs. I have the Orcs one. They do have Astra Militarum, Grey Knights, Black Templars, Tau Empire. So they do have Tau. Cheats of the Cults. Drakari. For a second there I was about to say Chaos Demons, but nope, Chaos Demons. And Chaos Space Marines. Nope, I think that is everybody. Unless I'm missing someone now. Yeah, we got the Dark Angels, I already knew that. World Eaters. I guess it just felt like Chaos Knights. Okay, I was about to ask that about Knights, but yeah, Chaos Knights. Yeah, I think they do got everybody. Never mind. Necrons, right? Sorry. Alright, so we're good. Ooh. I heard that. Oh, my neck. Oh, for some reason I thought they were missing someone. But I guess good thing they weren't. Yeah, they definitely need to increase the speed with the Codex coming out. I do agree with that, because I lost track of them after a certain while. Honestly, I don't. Tell me if this is an unpopular opinion. It's one I hold, but I don't know if it's an unpopular one. I don't think they should release a new edition until all the codexes are ready. Like, tell me if I'm like spouting some like nonsense there, but I don't think they should release a new game edition until everything's ready. And a core part of playing the game, like a whole half of the rules you need to know, are the codexes. Like, the core rulebook is great and all, you do need to know that. Everybody needs to know that. But to play your specific army, you need the codex. You don't got, like relying on Wahapedia for that shit is a bit much. Every fucking edition. The fact that I know for a fact the World Eaters Codex released around the same time Angron was dropped, so, or a little bit before. So the fact that they were releasing codexes that late in 9th edition, to the point where we now have 10th edition is just around the corner / pretty much ready, or ready by GW standards, which means the rulebook is ready. They shouldn't be releasing codexes that late in the game, literally. Just drop everything all at once. Like, here's the new rule, here's all the codexes you could possibly need. I could see them doing, like, delayed launches for, like, supplements of codex, like, with Space Marine Codex, right? Like, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Black Templars, fucking... anyone else? Like, I don't know. Salamanders, like supplements of, like, within factions. I can see them taking time to release those later. But the core codex for, like, everybody, like the main sub-faction, that should be ready at launch. Like, we shouldn't be waiting for that shit and relying on Wahapedia and shit up until basically the release of a new edition. That would require work. I mean, that's true. They wouldn't be a fan of that. It's gonna be fun painting these ladies. That's my next project to put on the market, is I'm painting up these Sisters of Battle I collected. I have a Combat Patrol box, plus the Battle Sisters squad I'm assembling right now. And I had an HQ I assembled earlier, Palatine. This is a Adeptus Sororitas Palatine. I'm trying to assemble them, at least I'm trying to assemble that HQ and this box together. I'm going to paint them all in one go. And then I'm going to do the Combat Patrol later. And I'm going to put them on the market and sell them. Imagine Huron encountering the Lion and then discussing the Inquisition's many fuck-ups. I can imagine that. That would be actually quite an interesting thing to include in the book. I do find it interesting that the first person that they're going to have the Lion conflict with is Angron, of all people. I think that's not the worst matchup ever, right? Like the Lion and Angron. Cold Fury versus Open Fury. I can work with that. there. Ross versus Magnus the Red again. And yeah, that'd be a nice, fun rematch. Be even funnier if Russ won again. Or are you gonna paint the ladies? I'm gonna paint the sisters. Most of the sisters first. Let's see. So when it comes to sisters, I'm going to paint them in terms of complexity. So the more simplistic sisters are going to get painted first. So like more basic battle sister like this is going to be amongst the first painted. But more complex ones such as this lovely lady and her unique banner. Or the HQ choice of the Palatine with her many details on her. Those are going to get painted last. Bane Prey finisher again. I made many jokes about that. That is like Lehman Russ's move when fighting Primarchs. And to be fair, it works. Like, Russ, when it comes to fighting other Primarchs, is kind of 0 for 3 if you think about it. The only reason Horus didn't die while fighting Russ is Russ got distracted. Like, he was literally about to do the exact same shit he did to Magnus. He lifted his fucking ass up, holding him overhead, and was about to smash him his back over his knee. Like, every time. Like, that seems to be his go-to move, and it works. It didn't kill Magnus, but it did disable him. Literally. And Horus would have been fucked if they hadn't, if his support hadn't kicked in there. Angron, Magnus, almost Horus. It's been his go-to. And the thing is, I've jokingly said that because it's heavily hinted in the lore that Russ hunted down at least one of the two fallen lost Primarchs. Sorry. It's heavily implied that he hunted at least one, if not both of them, by order of the Emperor, and that's how the Space Wolves got known as the Emperor's Executioners. Like, there's a line, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but he's talking to Dorn. It's about the Horus heresy, and they're talking about like the drama of it, and they're talking about like Primarch versus Primarch and like the severity of it, and then Russ just says something along the lines of, This isn't the first time, or we've done this. We've fought in Primarchs before. Something akin to that. So we know at the very least he had a hand in kicking the ass of at least one of the lost Primarchs. So I jokingly like to think that that's where he figured out the backbreaker maneuver. It's just I can imagine Russ was getting his ass handed to him by one of the lost Primarchs, right? And then his rage kicked in. He fucking fought through the pain of the fight, and then picked his unlucky brother up and slammed him over his knee in rage. And he just looked at his brother, this brother in question, crawling away, barely able to move because his back got shattered, and him just going, "Huh, this shit fucking works." And he just memorized it, and he did it on Magnus. He tried to do it on Horus. It's funny. I don't know. That's my headcanon for that, and I'm holding myself to that until I get confirmation otherwise. Doesn't affect his Vulcan. True. I can actually imagine that, like Russ tries to lift up Vulcan. First of all, struggles, barely lifts him up, and then tries to bring him down on his knee. But instead of Vulcan breaking his back, instead Russ breaks his knee. Just, And Vulcan, just in true brotherly fashion, gets up and goes, I wish to help my brother. It's like, I got it. I'm fine. Oh, fuck. It's funny kind of imagining some of that shit. Alright, back on track. So, yeah, political intrigue, the Lion, I'm hoping for that with the upcoming rating. What are you gonna get for 10th? Jeez. I don't know if I have any specific predictions. Because I genuinely don't know where GW is gonna go with it. For, like, I know where they could go with it. And I know what I would do. Right, with, like, the Lion coming back. Like I said, I'd have him come back. I'd have him, like, give this kind of Sidewinder kind of vibe to him. Not Sidewinder. A kind of menacing vibe to him. But at the same time, he wouldn't openly confront Gilliman about everything. He would do that, kind of side-eye, kind of... Tywin Lannister, pretty much, from Game of Thrones. Like, he just kind of hose him down without actually saying exactly how he actually feels. Just implying things. And being careful about how he says things. He's not like a politician. That's Gilliman. But he's still a careful and calculated person. So, I think he would keep his cards close to his chest. What little cards he would have after just waking up. And again, I would like to see like some of that inner rage that we all know the Lion has kind of bleed through against Gilliman. Will the Lion affect the Eisenhorn stuff, do you think? I'm not going to say it's off the table. I don't know if it'll affect it, though, too directly. I don't know. I'm just going to put a pin in that. I'm going to wait till I see something more before I give an opinion. I don't think so. I'll leave my answer at that. I don't think so. But I could be wrong. Would he have a break and attack G-Man? I would say yes. I would like to see that, but again, that I would like to see that solely from a point of view of I just want someone to bitch slap Gilliman for being Gilliman. But like narratively, do I think that would be satisfying if the Lion just showed up and started throwing hands? Nah. First of all, I don't think it would go with his nature, and second of all, it wouldn't be satisfying from a writing perspective. I would like him more to be distrustful of Gilliman, see the failures of Gilliman's idea with the Codex, pretty much lose any kind of trust in Gilliman as a leader because of that. And there being that, like, they're working together, obviously, and he's not going to openly, like, challenge Gilliman, but he is going to, in the background, cause some shit and do some things not necessarily Gilliman would approve of. And do so with very little discretion as to Gilliman's feelings about it. Like, have them have a internal conflict. And have it be political. Like maybe with... Because we know the High Lords of Terra got completely revamped by Gilliman, right? I would find it very fascinating if the Lion attempted to revamp that revamp. Like, removing certain members that Gilliman put in power and replacing them with his own choices. And then have them have a confrontation over that. Basically, have the two of them butt heads. But not have it be full civil war quite off the bat. Maybe if they think that would be cool, I think that might be cool to move towards that, like a civil war. Like, this is a Grimdark, right? We're not expecting or hoping for everything to just be like all rainbows and daisies and everybody getting along like it's, My Little Pony. It's supposed to be like very hopeless and fucked up, and a lot of that comes from things being very preventable. But they aren't preventable, and they do happen all the same because unfortunately the flaws that we see are just that. They're staying flaws. How are they gonna... Oh, yeah, that is the big question, I suppose. Yes. That is a big question. How will the Lion react to Primaris? Knowing GW's current writing strategy with that, he's just going to accept them. Like, I'm sorry, but I'd be shocked if GW did anything more than that. With that. Because there's... I just don't like GW, like when the Primaris first came out, GW said like the Black Templars, for example, just accepted them. Now, yes, later they fixed it, where the Black Templars actually had a full civil war over the Primaris shit. But they tend not to learn from their mistakes, so I think initially, at least, they're gonna have him just be okay with them and just kind of roll with the punches. And then later, after enough time, they're going to go back and go, oh, right, that was a potential for some actually interesting stories. Let's proactively fix that and have it so he wasn't okay with them at first, but came to like them because of how effective they were and whatever the fuck. And I just don't think... I don't trust GW to add intrigue very well in regards to Primaris specifically. Now, as for what I would like them to do with his reaction to the Primaris, I would like it if he actually put a barrier up and said, no more Primaris in my fucking Legion. Or in my chapter. Fuck that. Get them out. I think that would be interesting for him to completely stonewall it in the lore. And to bite back against that. And I would think it also interesting for him to point out how similar they are to Thunder Warriors. Now, yes, I know that was a popular theory, but a lot of other people who are fans of Primaris hate the theory that they're Thunder Warriors. I don't know why. But I would like that to be like a point of contention. Yeah, there's so much they could do, but it's Black Library. It's the current Black Library. My confidence in their writing isn't exactly outstanding. After Han, I think it might be along the lines of, this is getting out of hand, now there are two of them. Yeah, that's probably how GW is going to kind of handle it, to be fair, Daniel Lindsay, is it's just going to be accept them, but they're going to put in subtext, oh, but he's wary of them because where their true loyalties lie. It's because of that aspect of him that I don't think he would accept them. Like, I don't even think he'd pay lip service to it. Like, he already was so distrustful of and like paranoid that he sent his own adoptive father and one of his most capable librarians back home to Caliban during just before the heresy because he was pissed that they might, well, to be fair, in the case of for some reason I want to say Luther. That is Luther. What? Fuck. Brain. Work. For Christ's sake. To be fair, his adopted father did try and betray him and did try and let a ship blow up in his ship, but decided to change his mind last second. But that's beside the point. Oh, the helmet looked amazing as hell. A lion's helmet? Yeah, I think the helmet looked great. I think Luther was cool. I really liked Luther initially. And, you know, that's where, like, a lot of earlier books in the Horus heresy, I think, lost. Like, something happened to Black Library along the way where they kind of got fucked. But in those early books, when they were writing them in the early 2000s, right? Those were the days where they were writing some seriously heavy metal shit. Like, it was dark, it was serious, and there was a lot of internal tragedy. And the tragedy of Luther and the Lion is quite cool. And I can see why a lot of people became Dark Angels fans, to be honest. The only reason I didn't is, well, I had other shit that kind of drew me in stronger than that, about Dorn or about Russ. You know, like their cultures of their chapters are far more interesting to me than the Dark Angels. Dark Angels were just like a Night Order, which is cool, and it is in its own right fascinating. But compare that to Space Werewolf Vikings. Or, like, with Blood Angels, fucking vampires. Or Dorn. Stalwart walking defense. And stubbornness. Get your head doing. Alright. So... Sorry, Asmo, Space Knights can be just as badass. See, Glory Hammer, Angus Mix 6 forever. Glory Hammer is a good... Glory Hammer is the only example you need to give, brother. You were set with that one. Yeah. I am very hopeful. Well, I'm hopeful. I'm not, like, actually expecting Black Library to do the Lion correctly and handle it correctly. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping they do give the proper intrigue. They definitely don't make him just kowtow to Gilliman. I'll be pissed if they do that. I think everybody would be pissed by that. I think even Ultramarine fans would be pissed by that, right? Because how boring is that? He just shows up and he's just like, yeah, Gilly, you're in charge. That works for me. That'd be boring as shit. It's like, okay, great, he's back. What the fuck was the point of him coming back? Just to have another Primarch in the field? Well, apparently. No, I think everybody would be disappointed by that. I can only make, like... it's really hard to make even predictions of where they're going to go, because it's just Black Library surprises me in the worst ways lately. If he bends the knee, GW is done. I mean... I've seen some people put up with a lot more shit than they should from GW in regards to this stuff. Night Lords Asmo. I think they get some push with Lion coming back. I would like them to. Tri-Bash of 40k Lion, 30k Lion, and Big E Sword gonna look great. Yeah, the Kit Bashes are gonna look great. So are the STLs for like the 3D designs people were gonna redo of his stuff. Yeah, I'm excited. Super excited. The model potential alone for the Lion. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like a part of me is like looking at the official kit and is like, oh, that'd be fun to assemble and put together and paint. But at the same time, I look at it and I go, how much is that going to cost? Probably like $60 or more. Like how much did Gilliman cost? Didn't Gilliman cost $60 as a model? I'd have to imagine the Lion is going to cost 70 or more, right? Because they've hiked up prices. So I'm sorry, but a single model for that much is not enough for me. I am losing my voice here. Yeah, I am losing my voice. What the fuck? Okay. So I am going to wrap it up here. Morty was $110. Or Terry, you mean? 100% buying a slightly upscale version from a printer. He is a bit on the Wolverine side of height on his model there. Yeah. They shrunk him. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up here and just say that overall, the Adepticon stuff, what would I say? I'm happy to see the lion be brought back. I'm hoping that the lore stuff that they do with that is great. The model looks pretty cool overall. I really question how much he's aged. Yes, it's 10,000 years. We know Space Marines age, but we also know they age super fucking slow. And the Primarchs are supposed to be always jumped up Space Marines, like extra so. Even more so than Custodes. So if a single Space Marine can barely age after 1,000 years, I would expect the Primarchs to barely age after 1,000 years. So, you know, I question that aspect. Maybe there's an explanation. We'll see. But outside of the Lions announcement, I'm not into Age of Sigmar hardly at all. So the Seraphon models and stuff that they introduced for that with the Lizard Men, I think they look cool. They're interesting. But I don't play Age of Sigmar, so I just simply don't have that connection. And of course, the big announcement for 40k players like me, 10th edition. Really fucking depressed by the announcement. The gleefulness of them saying how much they're excited to simplify the game. The fact that they're clearly showcasing that 10th edition is going to do a double down on 9th edition's obsession with objective, secure-based games and campaigns, which means all the tournaments in 10th are going to be the same thing. It's all going to be about objective securing. It's all going to be about secondaries with objective securing. And with that, with OBSEC clearly going out the door, and it's now being replaced with a number value where certain units just are better at controlling the objectives over others. Not to mention the tie-ins with weapons and certain abilities. There's a lot there with 10th edition that just hit a fucking sour note with me. Really fucking hard. The kill team box looked okay. Like I said, like a small critique I've been holding back about the Leads of Votann since they were announced, and I'm just gonna be open about it now since we've seen more of their range and pretty much all the range available currently. They don't look like they belong in 40k, and they're not alone in that. Tau don't look like they belong in 40k either. Both are completely out of their element. And I do think it's an issue. And I've always had that issue with Tau, and if I've been honest with that with the Tau, I have to be honest with the Leagues of Votann. But that's not necessarily an Adepticon specific critique. Overall, the announcers were also kind of annoying. I think a part of that was the clear script they were running off of. The jokes were dad jokes at best. Absolute cringe at worst. Yeah. Overall, Adepticon was, I would say, a disappointment. Because when the biggest thing that's the most exciting thing is not even fully clear if it's going to be a positive yet, with the lion coming back, we don't know the lore implications, we don't know what they're going to do for the writing there, so we just know that he's back and we have a model that we can purchase now, I'm assuming, or pre-purchase soon. Cool. That's not exactly a positive. The model's cool, the model's nice, and I'm excited for the STL remakes of it and reworks of it, for sure. But until we get the lore, I can't explicitly say that the lion being introduced back into 40k is a good thing. Until that's there, I don't know. So that's the closest thing we had to an actual positive announcement for me. Everything else was dog shit, so I have to be honest, and my honesty is I was very disappointed. I'm hoping that there's more stuff that they're showcasing over the course of the next week. With Adepticon and stuff, so maybe we'll actually get some more positive stuff, but this first day one, the 22nd stuff, very, very underwhelmed. Very, very underwhelmed, and I'm hoping that lion stuff does end up being a concrete positive when we get the lore, but it's just not that now. Anyway, before you all head out, make sure to leave a like on the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed my commentary. If you disagreed, obviously that's perfectly okay. I welcome disagreements. If you're watching the VOD of this, feel free to leave a disagreement in the comments, or if you agree with me on certain points, disagree on others, you just want to leave a comment just saying you enjoyed the stream, whatever the case. Just that's all cool. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Check out the Patreon. Donate it if you want to support the channel. All that fun stuff. I think I've done all my house cleaning in terms of announcements, in terms of that shit. So anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Always. And genuinely. After all, these streams wouldn't happen if you guys didn't show up. Wouldn't be any fun for me. So, have a good night. Have a good day. Good afternoon. Whatever it is for you. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.